Cool. So last time you finished the campaign.
Yeah.
Which is but there was quite a lot of stuff I thought that you'd be interested in knowing about some of the NPCs, bits about the world, and your epilogues as well. Obviously, Talion and Argh don't get an epilogue.
Yeah. Well, Talion kind of gets one because he's now Navaros.
Talion basically got possessed completely by Navaros. Navaros is now siphoning knowledge and ability and skills from Talion.
My bad, guys.
God.
So you can expect probably some of Talion in Navaros, which is probably the worst character to have traits. how your sentient scimitars, how Shah, how Zirtil's mask, all of that factors into Navaros remains to be seen, but it will play a factor. Argh just basically tried as he could, just got brutally destroyed.
God damn it, Argh, you should have come with us.
Did he get a few hits in?
It's battalion.
He got hits in.
I'm glad someone tried to say
nothing.
Talion. Everybody else just fucking legged it.
Battalion.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much explained if we stayed, we died.
Yeah, we knew we were fucked, basically.
It was going to happen. He was healing faster than you can deal damage to him, put it that way. As soon as you did damage to him, new skin would form or instant.
Did he have magical resistance, or could we have potentially banished him or something, or done something?
Well, the thing is, where you would have banished him too, so that's the issue.
Could we have used power of friendship?
I don't think
everybody have.
I don't think you guys are good enough friends.
Wow.
I technically had the closest relationship to Talion, and I hated him.
Yeah.
It was a frenemy relationship.
I don't think anyone shed any tears for Talion.
Wow.
I mean,
Talion's alive, guys. He's gonna come back and hear all this.
Aramil shed tears for Talion, don't worry, but it wasn't. Yeah.
Argh had a camaraderie with Talion.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Talion was just beginning to open up to you guys, and you fucking leave him to be a demon.
The way I always saw it was that you were colleagues and you weren't friends. That's how I saw that relationship.
Harsh, man, harsh.
Now, what I was going to do for this, I was going to structure it in sort of three parts. So the first part will be your epilogues. Second part, I'll go through the missed info. And sort of the third part will be any additional questions you wanted to ask, then we'll go through. So this is my sort of story time with Sunny session.
Story time with Sunny.
Yeah.
Sunny story time.
Yeah. So I've written a lot of this stuff out. So a lot of it will just be me reading what I've already written. All right. So the first one's Aramil's epilogue.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about this one, so yeah,
So Aramil's. So I remember that Darius said he was going to be dying in the next year.
Yep.
So Aramil spends Darius's last year by his side, spending as much time as possible with him. He assists Riardon in his first year commanding the quills and using them for good. During this time, he spends his nights in the Black Sleeves library researching everything he can about the multiverse and traveling to different dimensions. Knowing Zerentix was able to create a portal to Neveros's realm, he bargains the astral maggots for her assistance. She is more than happy with the exchange after Aramil informs her that Familia was previously using them as food. He also scries for Argh every night, despite it never bringing up any. He tries to spend time with Goldbrick and Cirilla in a more social sense. Sort of asks Cirilla's how her show's going, asks Goldbrick what he's doing with his life. Not much, as it turns out. He focuses on others. Him focusing on others is kind of basically a way to distract himself from his own internal nightmares and terrifying daydreams. Does wonder, without Argh, if he would have went back to his drinking or not. Who knows?
I mean, I've decided to leave that out of epilogue and more for conspiracy to think.
So after 10 years of research and practice, Aramil is actually successful in learning about how to teleport to other dimensions. Before he does, he requests a meeting with Riardon and Cirilla in order to say bye to them and to inform them that he plans to spread Talion's last words to every universe. After which he teleports away and is never seen or heard from again. No one knows if he ended up okay or where he went.
He's definitely coming back.
Oh, wow.
Aramil has decided to just on top of that, Aramil has basically decided that he has got too much hurt in this world and too many bad memories, and he's going to do what he did before the entire campaign happened, and he's going to explore other places.
Druids age super slowly, right? Of max level as well.
Yep.
So you would conceivably be alive in the next.
I will be alive.
Yeah, cool.
He'd been alive even without not aging. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, he's an elf as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So 150 on average, but with my high level druid, I will be very old.
Yeah, so I think it's like for every 10 years you only age 1.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous. So yeah, it's like a stupid amount.
Yeah, we discussed what that number is, and
yeah, it's a lot. So next we'll do Cirilla's epilogue.
Excellent.
Wait.
So it turns out when she had sex with Holg in the Enigma space, it actually impregnated her.
Oh my god!
She has Holg's kid. What?
Kind of Fenelia's kid.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's a twisted kind of.
Yeah. So again, obviously, it brings into question how real the Enigma space was.
Holg is very fertile, to be fair, so it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's very true.
Past the even Enigma space.
Yeah. She actually ended up hunting down Zitril, the guy, Zai, the guy who's in that hut in the cabin in the woods. You guys remember?
Yeah.
With the bad sculptures and the bad paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah. She found him, forced him into marriage, and somehow managed to convince him that her child, whom she named Holg Jr., is his, even though the child is a half-orc.
Quarter orc.
Oh my god.
Zitril's not the smartest person, so it wasn't that difficult for him to like.
Are we sure Cirilla didn't just like drug him or something constantly?
Probably, just ran out of ways.
Mind tricks.
Yeah, I don't think this was fully above board, to be honest, but that's fine.
He was happy.
Yeah. He gave him some stability.
Without consent.
With like Merope, what's her name? She like tricks Voldemort's dad into like loving her. It seems like that.
No, it's nothing like that.
I feel like it's a little like that.
No, it's nothing like that.
Like that.
She then went on to produce Overlords the musical to tell the story of her adventure through her own eyes. So, in true Cirilla fashion, she portrayed herself as the main character and the one who dealt the killing blow to each Overlord and getting them all out of getting them out of all the troubles they encountered.
Was she even there for the first Overlord? I don't think she was.
I don't think she was, no.
Yeah.
But
She was. We're all there for the first one.
Oh, no, she was there.
No, she was.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, she
Dealing the killing blow.
Taking away Starkrick's thunder.
Talion wears the head of every Overlord around his belt, always wears his mask, is extremely sketchy, and has an argument with every character the party meets.
Accuracy.
Yep. Aramil takes on the role of comic relief, either being terribly depressed or drunk.
Excellent.
At all times.
More or less accurate.
I think that's very accurate. Well done. Yeah.
I like this play so far, to be fair.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Riardon's stealth is portrayed so heavily that halfway through the show he's no longer on stage and used for voice acting.
Wow. I mean, it's the cloak, man. The cloak of invisibility. You wouldn't see him.
Exactly. Argh is my favourite. Argh is always topless, flexing his biceps and stands twice the height of all other characters. Instead of casting spells, he just shouts the name of the spell and punches the enemy. So good.
That is most ridiculous and wonderful.
Argh's token is him topless anyway, so
That's what stood out.
Yeah. Starred Creek is portrayed as an actual dragon by two men in a suit. So like the horses, wielding his greatsword in his mouth and becoming increasingly mad as the sort of near the end of the first act. Develops a full-on death wish, at which point he is kicked out of the party because Argh is better at flexing.
Yeah, the flex off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he can't flex if he's on all fours. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Oh my
There you
God.
go. The general public, they pretty much liked her show. Like they adore it. She got quite a lot of praise for it. Some critics gave it negative reviews.
Wow.
In response to this, though, she held compulsory Q&A sessions for those critics, at which point she would use Gaius in a high-level slot to make them love it.
Wow. Nice.
Corruption.
Okay.
Misuse of power.
Near the end of her life, however, her life takes a bit of a darker twist.
Dear.
She
Kids.
visited one of these negative reviewers at their house, and he pushed her so far that she snapped and ended up killing him in front of his young daughter. With deep regret for her actions, she turned herself in and died in prison.
Oh,
Leaving
shit.
everything to Zithril and Holg Jr.
Wait, what did Hulk Jr. have to say about this?
Well, Holg Jr. Yeah, he wasn't obviously happy about it, but he couldn't. What did he do? She killed somebody.
Damn, Hulk would be disappointed.
Holg Jr. would have gone on and carried on with the show. So the show would have been he would have done it.
I'm kind of glad that Hulk didn't see his son. He would have been like, "Son, what are you doing?"
Yeah. Oh yeah. He, obviously, considering his only role model was Zithril and Cirilla. Cirilla, in his eyes, was obviously the more, I guess, the more role model worthy parent. So he became more sort of fan of the arts. Right. So Riardon's epilogue. So obviously he becomes leader of the Quills. So turning the black sleeve stuff into the Quills. Uses it to obviously, make the world a better place. After killing the overlords, making sure nobody, takes their place. No one becomes the new overlords. Obviously, as Navaros is still out there somewhere, he uses all of his resources into finding and killing him, which never bears any fruit. So no matter how much he studies, no matter how much research he does, he cannot find a way to Navaros's realm or know how to kill him. It seems to be that sort of information died with Shurik. He ends up remarrying another elvish woman and have a son, which he names Talion in memory of his friend.
Excellent.
Nice.
He obviously tries to make sure that his son doesn't follow in the path of his namesake.
There's nothing wrong with Italian.
Yeah. Riardon obviously attunes to Frostbite, unleashing its power. I will go through that in a bit later. Having lost his first wife to Perinicus, he cultivates Needle Spine to make sure no one else died from it, so basically ending that disease worldwide. When Navaros, so this is kind of more into the sort of next campaign, but obviously when Navaros starts his invasion again as part of Hell's Jaw, Riardon basically feels that the Quills aren't up to the task. They can't, in their current form, deal with the invasion. He then turns the Quills into the Tracker Association, which basically creates the trackers that you guys will be.
Who are the trackers? The hunters.
The hunters. The hunters are called trackers. That's basically the association that hunts them down. Riardon will actually be in charge of the academy, while his wife is does the more business side of things, because Riardon didn't quite have the brain for business.
No.
His son is just kept safe, because he's obviously quite young. And he never really learns people's names properly. Like, he never got that skill down. He had to, while he was in the Quills, and even in the Trackers, he's had to have like an aide to help him with people's names, because he just couldn't do it. And that's it. That's your epilogues.
Can I just say, I really hope that Riardon keeps calling at people Talion, Argh, Cirilla, and Aramil.
He's just going to go with what he's known, yeah.
Yeah. Just any druid-looking folk, Aramil.
Okay. So the next one, we're going to go through the missed info. So again, if you want to, let me know if you want to go through any of these in more detail. So the first one is about your imprisonment right at the start. So Move to the prison.
Oh, you're going to take us there.
Take it to the prison. All those days ago. Years ago.
Oh, by the way, while you're looking, Aramil was going to say something to all of you before he left, and he says that he knows, after saying about going to other places for Talion and to make sure that Talion's last request is done everywhere, and that he can't bear to spend any more time in this world anymore. He says he knows it's been left in good hands, and he knows that all of you will keep it safe. And then he leaves.
Damn.
So, why are you imprisoned here? So,
the rug.
Yeah, the rug.
Oh,
the players were sent to the prison to help further the mind control magic research of one of Amaris's officers. Each of the characters possessed a quality that proved resistant to the magic. So he's basically trying to use you guys as guinea pigs to sort of further the effectiveness of the magic itself. However, to keep your minds pure, after each experiment, they basically wiped your memories.
What?
So they basically pressed the reset button, which is why you never knew about it.
So we'd been experimenting.
Wait, how long had we been in there?
For as long as, I didn't really put time frames on them.
But a while.
But for a fair amount of time. Yeah.
Oh my God. Talion would have wreaked havoc if he'd known.
Yeah, which is hence why they didn't,
Yeah.
I put in here they used the modify memory spell, but just in case anyone found any problem, loophole, they used magic in some way to reset your brain.
Absolutely disgusting.
The issue they had though, they couldn't just acquire test subjects without, just necking people off the streets. Otherwise, that'd have been suspicious. So they could only use people who were going to prison anyway and have them transferred. So Amaris's officer had actually instructed Bajui, that noble that you killed, to redirect criminals that he chose to that prison, and in return, Bajui got their stuff.
Right. Okay.
Which is why you found him in that room.
Was there a way for us to find out? I see. What about the memory?
Probably,
wipes?
like if you kept the warden alive, or maybe even Bajui alive, and obviously interrogated them specifically. He probably would have got it out with them with enough rolls. But certain Dragonborn people were killing everybody left, right, and centre, so it was a little bit difficult to get that information.
Angry.
I don't know who that could have been. To be
No. So basically, for each one of you, so for Star Creek, for example, being captain in the GRA, his mind was very conditioned to stay calm, to strategize, to be very good in very stressful situations. So he's very, very strong-willed. By testing on Star Creek, it basically led to them discovering how to take the minds of GRA members, which was what resulted in them all killing each other.
God damn.
Damn.
So
that's like 20 years ago, wasn't it? So,
so in order to get Star Creek was one of the first. So in order to get Star Creek arrested, they actually sabotaged Jared's sword, your opponent in that tournament, so that it would break and that you'd be thrown in prison. Because you were very difficult to impersonate. So, yeah. For Talion, you were an ex-Black Sleeve member, and you actually managed to leave and still be alive. So, again, strong of mind, they wanted to... Amaris especially wanted to sort of break your mind, because if they could, then he would have all of Black Sleeves at his beck and call. However, Talion proved quite strong-willed, and they were never able to break your mind in the time you were in the prison.
Good.
Good.
For Aramil, he was actually only there because of Talion. So he was actually part of the same prison transfer. So, but
all of it could have been avoided.
To their surprise, you were also resistant to the magic. They had no idea why. The reason was because of your specific bloodline made you a lot more resilient. They never found out, and they never got through. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Geoff. So people of faith, so very religious people, actually quite rare in Crisia. So especially when Neveros first invaded, people kind of lost their faith because it was like, well, my God's done fuck, let this happen. So finding finding one still alive and still holding their faith was actually really difficult, and finding one that would break the law was also very difficult. So when Geoff actually managed to get arrested, they jumped on that as fast as they could. Turned out, though, they managed to break his mind pretty quickly. Turns out if you're very religious, your mind is very susceptible to being persuaded. So, yeah.
No shade at religions at all.
No shade.
So that was that. Any questions about
that? Why was the dragon there?
So the dragon, again, they were trying to test the magic on that dragon specifically because it proved resilient.
Were any of the other overlords aware that Arnayus was doing mind control stuff? Were they not concerned?
So they knew of it because obviously when they were traveling around and stuff, but they just figured that he would never, they were more powerful than he was, basically.
Yeah, they are way too, that's why we killed them all, because they were all basically way too cocky, but...
Curious question. Why is my bloodline so particularly strong? Is it Torvin or my mother?
Both.
Okay, now I'm really going to need that answered.
Don't worry. The mysterious safe that you had the key to.
Oh, this is one of my questions.
Yeah. Well, I've read this anyway, but basically, it's nothing actually that exciting. So if you would open that safe, you would have found a large bag containing 300 gold.
Oh, that would be very handy.
At the time, yeah, that would be really handy.
Yeah.
A family heirloom daggers, which probably wouldn't have done anything. Maybe I would have made them like a +1 or something. Wouldn't have been great. There were also naked drawings of a woman that wasn't the guard's wife.
Those would have been useful.
That would have been pretty juicy.
Yeah. That's why the key was always on him.
That is unsurprising.
Jesus.
I don't mention much about that. So the mind control magic. So the origins of the mind control magic was that it was originally developed by the Zean dragons. So Arnayus learnt that magic from Fenelia, who obtained that information from her intellect, the brain guy, who actually got it from when it took over a dragon.
Okay.
And so what it did, so that it kind of basically passed down through that line, and all the literature it kind of kept with him as time went on.
Okay.
That's the origins of it. Theron. So Theron joined the Black Sleeves after being dismissed from the GRA due to his failure in his mission during the War of the Chalice. Angry at the GRA, he wandered around South Valley looking for work. He eventually stumbled across Ileana, the Black Sleeve member they met during their mission. They sort of spoke to each other about, she spoke to him about their work with the Black Sleeves, and basically Theron joined them as a way of making money. Ileana and Theron basically went on a lot of missions together as partners, so they paired up quite a lot. They got quite close. If they weren't killed, they probably would have made that a bit more serious. I never got the chance. Zertul. So Zertul is a fusion of the wizard Zernia and his snake familiar Nortil. Zernia was sort of well-mannered, bit shy. Nortil, on the other hand, had the personality that Zertul is famous for. His creepiness. Because they're a fusion, they basically swap consciousness quite a lot, which is what produces their bipolar nature. So that's them switching consciousness. So the fusion itself actually occurred during one of Neveros's attacks. Zernia was in a town with Darius and Torvin. This was way before the Black Sleeves were created. So Darius and Torvin would be pushing back demons, trying to save the town. Zernia would be using his teleport spell to get people out. Obviously doing this used up a lot of his energy, so he used up a lot of slots doing this, because he obviously teleported out, teleported in, and tried to keep getting as many people out as he possibly could. So he got all the civilians out, and then he tried to basically get Darius and Torvin away. At this point, he was out of slots. So he did it anyway. Obviously, it caused issues. It obviously didn't touch Darius and Torvin. He only ended up teleporting himself and his snake about 100 feet away, and it fused them together. And this is where he sort of started developing his Warlock magic, which he then sort of kind of used at the time while he still had control to help save the town. But obviously, as time went on, Nortal kind of took more and more of his stuff. But it was that sort of Darius recruited him as sort of procurement specialist, where he kind of would get all these items for them and so on and so forth. But that's his origin.
Okay.
Damn.
So he's not just a creepy guy.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Axfall, I mean, there wasn't much here. I don't know whether I told you guys already, but the Torvin that was in Axfall wasn't real. He was an astral projection of the real Torvin.
Right. Okay.
And you guys still lost to him.
We didn't fight him, did we?
Oh no, that was the other time.
The other time we.
Yeah,
that was the other time. That was the real one. Yeah, but yeah, at the Axfall, when you saw him, he wasn't actually there. He was still with Finalia at the time, but he had to show his face. So.
Thank you.
Now I remember when we were talking about the final circle, people asked me why the final circle, considering they're a rebellion, never really rebelled.
I think Talion was harassing them about this.
Talion harassed them about this a lot.
So there was actually a reason for this. So I don't.
To be honest, Talion just didn't like them.
He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know.
No, but I'm surprised that didn't come up.
Yeah.
It's just because Talion was just trying to be rude to them. He didn't really care.
Talion never cares.
So Yaksuri and Gorath actually used to be lovers when they first claimed North.
What the hell?
So their relationship was filled with very rough passion, but they separated after they got into an argument over which is stronger between physical and magical power.
And so he raged and took over the entire region.
Basically, and it's basically what stemmed his hatred for magic users as well.
Wow. So it was her fucking fault.
In a way, yes, which is why she formed the final circle, because she felt that she was responsible for everything. But it's also why she never really rebelled against Gorath, because they were in love at a point, and she couldn't bring herself to actually cause him real harm.
Talion chopped off his head. Was she not?
She wasn't there for that, though, was she? So
would she have been upset if she?
I think she would have probably been upset.
She would have been upset, but she would have internalized it.
I carried his whole weapon around in my bag, by the way. It's still the Navros has got it now.
What was it? There was I did actually plan for you to summon her to the fight. There was a plan that if Kurt fled, he would have brought Yaksuri with him back. Okay. He would have teleported back to the final circle. Yaksuri would have given him a bollocking and basically teleported back with him. But it never happened because he never fled.
Okay.
Let him, I don't think.
So this information, not even Argh would have known. So this is about Zerentix especially.
Oh shit.
So Zerentix is actually the daughter of Gorath and Yaksuri.
Ooh.
She uses a magical amulet to change her appearance to that of a half-elf. In reality, she's a half-orc with silver dragon scales because she's a sorceress with dragon origin.
I'm guessing she's aware of her father.
Wait. Yes, but not the other way around. So she basically inherited like the sort of magical abilities of her mother and the arse-holiness of her father. But Gorath was never aware of her existence. They split while Yaksuri was pregnant.
What would he have done if he'd found out?
I don't think he would have liked it very much because she was magic based. He probably would have tried to bring her in as a fighter.
Yeah.
And he definitely wouldn't have let her hide her appearance. It would have probably led to more arguments, but I think Yaksuri would never have wanted that to happen.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, man.
So, because of that, when Zerentix left the final circle to join Darius, that's why Yaksuri hates Darius so much, because he took her daughter.
Also makes sense.
So, I mean,
Zerentix know any of that?
No. Because they kept that a secret.
Okay.
They didn't want anyone to know.
Yaksuri sounds super sketchy to me.
She's a bit. I mean, I mean, she did. If people found out that Zorentix was Yagzuri's and Gorath's daughter, and even that Yagzuri and Gorath had a relationship, I don't think the Final Circle would have.
I mean,
done very well.
You got that stability of that rebellion, that structure, just.
Yeah, it would have fallen down. Hence why it was a secret.
Talion was
reputation.
Right. Exactly. Zorentix's goal in life is basically to become an overlord. She wants that kind of level of authority and power. She feels that if Finelli can do it with her magical ability, then she can as well. She basically left the Final Circle because she thought they were weak and they were holding her back. Because, as you said, guys said, they were doing fuck all.
Does she now work for me? Technically.
I think she's probably going to leave you, mate.
I'm going to have to watch her, because if she wants to be an overlord...
And you don't know I gave her astral maggots, I'm so sorry.
There's a whole thing with that, but that's kind of more of a thing. But she doesn't stick around. When she learns what she needs to learn,
don't really need to get your men in order.
And there's no way you would have reined her in at all.
Yeah.
I had 1 year with you, and I gave her astral maggots, and I possibly fucked you over. I'm sorry.
We know how that's going to make things different in the next campaign.
So sorry.
So obviously, when Darius presented himself, she saw it as an opportunity to abuse his resources. She has basically very little patience for people. From that she can't learn from, which, as far as she's concerned, is everybody. So, if you guys had went to go see her, she would have teleported you away.
Oh, Jesus.
So, yeah.
So I should have decided to not go with the whole, we think she's Aramil's sister. That would have been bad.
That was very bad.
I should have added her to the hit list as well.
You didn't get a hit list. You're Navaros.
as Navaros,
everyone is on his hit list now. So for Zitral, so this was something that Cirilla asked for, but I never got around to giving. So way back before Finelli took the region, and even Navaros entered the world, he was a crafter. He would sell products as a traveling merchant, kind of similar to what he's doing now. His product was always sort of advertised as being like revolutionary, but essentially they were doing something very simple in a very complex way. So one of his many things, one was an hourglass. So you'd think in a desert, hourglasses are pretty easy to sort out. You've got enough sand there to make glass, and obviously the sand to put into it. But then rather than going with the tried and tested design of the hourglass thing, obviously, he basically tried to do funky designs that had like spirals and curves. They looked really nice, but the problem was every time you flipped it over, the time would be different. So it kind of ended up being completely pointless because everyone obviously uses them to record time, and when the time is different, you just
it's not very consistent.
And sand would get stuck. Yeah, exactly.
Is it 5 minutes or 10?
Sides would get sand would get stuck and all that. Yeah. He fashioned his business in such a way that when he was sort of done with a round of selling, he would basically disappear. So he would teleport away, which is why when he does what he does, he goes back, gets his hut, teleports away, so no one can come back and complain. Because you can imagine how many angry people were stepping up at his doorstep, so he would move his doorstep.
What a shifty guy.
Yeah.
Flogging all this stuff.
I mean, genius.
Yeah.
A bit of a dick move, but genius.
Crisia.
Oh no.
So there was a way to bring Crisia back.
No.
It was very, very specific though, so it would be very difficult for you to actually do it. And I would have been surprised. Wait, you gave him one. You gave her one. You implanted one into her.
No, was she a true creature? Does she go to heaven when she died?
That's going to a whole separate.
Did she have a soul and did it go somewhere?
The answer is no.
Well, the thing is, now if you had burnt Crisia to ash and then used a resurrection spell on that ash, she would have been reborn as a dryad.
Oh, that would have been fucking cool.
Sylvanas, the person that you never called, being able to give you this information.
Sylvanus, your god that you never talk to ever.
Yeah.
At least
If you would
Get a
ask
chance
how,
after Fenelia.
because yeah, if you asked Sylvanus, like what can I do for Crisia? How can I bring her back? He or she would have given you this information.
I was too interested in the astral maggots.
Yeah.
I was like, Crisia died and it was my fault. And just took on the pain.
Yeah.
God, I could have saved Aramil some more heartache. I feel bad.
Do you still travel with Crisia in your
No, astral maggots have devoured that completely.
The maggots devoured it. And then after I gave the maggots away, like, there's nothing left.
Yeah. So, the next thing I'll do actually is, before this one, is remember the shard that Shurik had?
Mm-hmm.
It had a name, I never got round to it. It's called the UB shard.
Oh, what shard?
Excellent.
Right? Yeah. It had the power to change reality, basically.
Is this the reality gem from Infinity Wars?
Maybe.
So the scannel crystal is actually the husk that the UB shard was extracted from. So it was actually a leftover, and it was already that powerful. So you can kind of, imagine how strong the shard was. The husk was located within Navaros's body, which the Overlord actually managed to extract. So Shurik took the shard out of it, and Fenelia kept the scannel crystal.
Oh,
cool.
That crystal was huge.
Yeah.
Navarros is huge.
Massive. Yeah.
As we're beginning to see as we cowardly escaped.
It would have turned
some cowardly escaped.
As most of us cowardly escaped.
The brain thing in Fenelia's head. So it was an intellect devourer, which I've told you before. So it basically possessed Fenelia before she joined the group to defeat Navaros. So the intellect devourer retains all knowledge from everyone it's previously possessed. The devourer itself desires to learn all the magic, which is why Fenelia was able to use every spell without a spell book, because in theory, the brain's a spell book. So it doesn't need one. If the intellect devourer had survived, so there's multiple offshoots to this. So if it had survived, like you hadn't caught it basically and it ran off, it would have gone in search for the next powerful spellcaster, which you can probably imagine who that was. Zerentix. Yeah. It would have gone straight after Zerentix without really any issue.
You bad guy.
Yeah. If you had captured it, it probably would have tried taking over Argh in a vibe for survival, which would have removed Argh from the campaign.
Thank God.
Could we have interrogated it at all in any way?
You could try, but again, it'd be fighting you the entire time.
Yeah,
we could torture it. Talion was immortal.
Yeah, you probably could. I'm sure. Yeah, for sure you could have done. I don't think it can.
I'd implant it in someone, and then
maybe telepathic. I'd have to check the monster manual.
Yeah, we'd have to let it possess someone and then talk through them.
Yeah, most likely. But yeah, that's probably very dangerous because all that magical ability will automatically go into whoever it possesses.
Yeah. So the astral maggots were feeding it.
Yeah. So that's the next bit. So the astral maggots. These would be these were basically food for the intellect devourer, and they originally lived in the astral plane. What the intellect devourer would do was use plane shift to teleport astral maggots to itself when it needed the food. Now, normally in the astral plane, they are sustained by the plane itself because you don't really need to eat while you're in there. Once they leave, that's no longer the case. That's why they would eat Crisia. But they're usually eaten within a month of them being extracted, so that's why they would never grow. However, if they are fed and allowed to mature, they turn into intellect devourers.
So it was a cannibal.
Oh my god.
It is indeed a cannibal.
Wait, didn't you feed them all on Crisia?
I fed them all on Crisia.
Indeed, you did, and you
gave
gave
to Zerentix.
them to Zerentix.
Oh
You
my
basically
god!
given Zerentix an army of intellect devourers.
Oh
Wow.
my god!
I am really sorry, everybody, but I had absolutely no idea that was going to happen.
You've left me in absolute mess. You've already got Navros.
Has Riardon just been completely screwed for the future?
Can you say
Very
how
possibly,
many,
yeah.
Can you say how
Well, you're
many
all going to
there
be
are?
pretty screwed.
Riardon,
Oh,
if I ever get back, I'll teleport you out of there.
I think convenience will probably just say there's about 100 of them.
I'm so sorry.
So we could probably like take off. We could probably reduce it to 90 because some of them were like
Oh,
cut.
that's nice.
I did chuck a few.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, so you probably get down to about 90, 80, but there's still quite a lot of them.
Did you eat one?
I ate one. I chucked 10 for giant insect.
Yeah.
And I may have done that twice, but I'm not sure.
So the astral plane itself is actually the space between planes, and that's true in D&D anyway. So basically, when Navarosh travelled from his demon plane to Crisia, he actually, one of the astral maggots actually happened to attach itself on him completely by chance. It fell off in the real world and eventually ended up growing into the intellect devourer. That's how it got here.
Okay, it's interesting.
So, the one I know on Matt's brain, what happened to Star Creek?
I know what happened to him.
Finally, he's dead.
Yeah, obviously he is dead. So the way he is dead, though, I'll be interested to see what if people agree with it. But we'll see what happens. So after he left, he worked very closely with the Final Circle to help liberating more magic users. But it took a while for everything to change. After about a week, because he did this very well, by the way, being a brute and a force to be reckoned with, they liberated Star People really quickly. After about a week, the mansion was full, and they couldn't expand it anymore because the people they were hiring didn't have enough magical power to keep expanding it. Star Creek, in his selflessness, volunteered to sleep outside of the mansion.
That actually sounds like something Star Creek would do.
Yeah. However, obviously, due to Star Creek's reputation as the ghost of Axfall, he couldn't really stay in any towns or inns, so he basically had to sleep outside in the wilderness. People, obviously, Star Creek is not the most stealthiest person in the world, and he was discovered as still being alive. So people obviously were quite frightened of him. People did put requests in to the Black Sleeves to have him killed.
Oh, wow.
But because of Aramil, Darius would never action any of those requests.
You're welcome.
The downside, unfortunately, the civilians became impatient and sought out different assassination groups. So they sought out a different one called the Silent to kill him instead. After failed assassination attempts, because again, Star Creek is a boss, they basically figured going straight at him would never work.
Did they poison him or something?
So they went for a different tactic. So they basically started to monitor Star Creek, and they noticed a few not weaknesses, but quirks about him. They discovered he was able to magically summon his sword wherever he was. And it basically had like a thunder property. They also noticed he loves to leave it places and summon it.
He would have brought it with him all the time. It's only when he left it, when he didn't have a when he didn't have a sheath.
Okay. Oh, that changes this bit, but we'll have to go with it. So basically, he would leave it in random places so he could basically like surprise people.
That's way cooler.
So he would basically go.
Way cooler.
So he'd be like going there somewhere unarmed, and he'd like hold his hands up and go surprise motherfucker, and then slash people down. You got to
have done that with this javelin, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll put this as we did with the sword. They also noticed he can't see in the dark, and that he was deaf in one ear, because he ripped out the Mind Talker, which are attached to eardrums.
You never ripped it out.
You took it out. The thing is to take those things out by force, because you did take it out by force.
I thought you rejected it in the first place.
I never.
No.
I had it in. I never
had it in.
I never took it out.
You did take it out, but
no, I never took it out. I swear.
Either way, to be the fact that you
discussed this. I never took it out.
Makes no difference. It's fine. They basically devised a plan. They also he uses magic to alert people when people come close to him. So he always knew when stuff entered in his vicinity. So piecing all that together, they developed a plan. They would wait for him to set up camp. And they would use an elderly woman as a decoy to approach him. That would set off his spell. They would then get his own sword and stab him with it while he was focused on the woman. And I've basically put that's how he got killed. It's by being stabbed by his own sword.
I mean, if there were enough of them.
There was obviously quite, they would have...
Yeah.
I blame the old woman for going along with the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gang of old women.
Eventually it would have happened anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't put time frames on any of this, but, eventually it would have happened.
I mean, it was a year, wasn't there?
It was a year gap, so at some point in that year it would have happened. Because obviously the thunder property, I said that it caused him to explode.
Wow.
Yagzuri was not impressed at how easily he was defeated, and Starcreek's greatsword eventually became a prize at Axfall and became a collector's item.
Jesus.
So that's how
Starcreek. I really hope that's in Hell's
Well, we'll see what happens. Holg.
Hey.
So Holg was part of the fight when the GRA was mind controlled and forced to kill each other. However, due to Holg's might and battle prowess, he was the last man standing. However, once the adrenaline subsided and he saw all the corpses of his comrades that he basically killed because of these six spellcasters that had to use his magic on all of them. He basically started slaughtering the 6 spellcasters.
Sounds right.
However, on the last spellcaster, basically cast a spell to teleport Holg away. Holg did throw his weapon though and kill the spellcaster, but not before he got teleported away.
To be continued.
To be continued.
Oh, damn.
Oh, excellent.
So your sea creatures that you fought on the first journey, the mind flayer and the Sahagin.
Mm-hmm.
So their king is called Slesserin. He is extremely territorial. Once all the sea creatures became aggressive, thanks to Fenelia, he was able to recruit them all into his personal army and basically rule the whole of the underwater. The Kuotoa are his more common sort of species, and they serve as his scouts. The Sahagin group are basically his Ginyu force. They were his private attack force called the Slessergwin. The Mind Flayer was one of his advisors, basically, one of his right-hand men.
So we just basically wiped out most of his force.
No.
Okay, not most of his force, but we wiped out some important players.
Yeah, you hit some big players, yeah, definitely. The stuff that you fought on the second route were nothing to do with him.
Okay.
The Married were just passing by. The Dragon Turtles were, near, just around Zia, generally.
Has that had any effect killing all the Overlords now on the White Sea?
Oh, what, in terms of travel?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, this will be more in the next thing, but because of the developments of Navarite equipment, they can pass the sea without any issues. They still sometimes get attacked, but it's nowhere near as guaranteed as before, and they do have them guarded. So Torvin. This is a long one. So, So Torvin and Darius spent a long time during Navaros's invasion helping Crisians get to safety. As people sort of joined them in this venture, there were so many of them, they ended up calling themselves the Black Sleeves. They were named as such because they were like something hidden underneath a magician's sleeve that would perform miracles. That's why they were called such. And they were called by the public by that, and they just ended up adopting it.
Okay.
While during sort of the Navaros invasion, they would constantly meet up with the overlords because they shared the same goal. So they would cross paths quite regularly. During this time, Torvin met and fell in love with one of the members of the overlords at the time, Sandra. They ended up having a child together, which I'm guessing you know who that was. Yeah. When Sandra got pregnant, yeah, obviously, I didn't pick the name. When Sandra got pregnant, she obviously was not in a fit state to fight Navaros, so she left the overlords and returned to her tribe to raise her child. She basically kept her past a secret from Aramil because by the time he was born, things went a bit weird. So she didn't really want Aramil involved with all of that stuff. During the final fight against Navaros, Torvin and the Black Sleeves would fend off sort of the lesser demons that Navaros would spawn, and to give the overlords like a clear run. So they were the Black Sleeves were, and Torvin were very involved in sort of that final fight. So as a result of all of that, Torvin and Shurik became very close friends because Shurik was in charge of that group. They became very trusting. They had a very deep trust. And that trust kind of maintained once the overlords kind of decided to leave the world and started segregating. And it's also the main reason the Black Sleeves became independent because all the overlords kind of trusted Torvin to keep that independence. After a while, however, Torvin ended up becoming part of Shurik's ultimate plan, which I will go through later. During this so actually I probably should go through it now. So Shurik's ultimate plan was he summoned Navaros in the first place.
What, first time round?
Yes.
Okay.
So the reason for this is because he wanted eternal life and youth and power. And to do this, he discovered Navaros.
Okay.
So his plans were essentially to summon him, kill him, and then to take his power. Unfortunately, when Navaros died, his body re-teleported back to the demon realm, which Shurik then had to readjust his plans. So as part of Shurik's plan, he was actually able to contact. After a while, he managed to make contact with a greater demon, Zoran, which I may or may not remember, but I'll get to it later. Who said he would be willing to exchange information with Shurik as long as Shurik gave him a vessel to be in his world. Now, Shurik didn't want to risk his own life to do this because he didn't know what the effects would be, so he asked Torvin to do it instead.
Why would Torvin agree to that?
Torvin didn't. So Shurik basically lied to Torvin and told him it was perfectly safe. It's purely like he's going to just talk through you.
I just want this demon to inhabit you.
Exactly. Would you please just stand here and allow me to get possessed by a demon? Thank you.
Well, the thing is, he never said he was going to be possessed. All he said is he needs someone to talk through. Can you do it? He can't talk through me because I need to talk to him. I need to hear what he's saying. So if he talks through you, we'll be able to communicate properly.
Okay, so at the very least, what we can justify is Torvin wasn't actually a terrible human being.
Correct.
He was a stupid one, maybe.
He was a dumb
He was a trusting one. You've got to remember, these guys, they're brothers in arms. Yeah, they're best friends and brother in arms. So he would believe...
He was betrayed, and the first thing he saw when he was out of his possession was his son killing him. Oh, that's horrible.
So, yeah. Well, there you go. So basically, due to the unshakable trust, Torvin agreed to do this. The possession, however, slowly changed Torvin's personality for the worse as Zoran took over. He became more violent, and he shifted the rules and the purpose of the Black Sleeves to what you guys know them to be. This is why Callie, the cook on the Mulvey, wasn't killed when she left the Black Sleeves.
Ah.
Yeah. However, Shurik was concerned that Torvin would be able to withhold information from Zoran after he found out what he really wanted from him. In order to test the effectiveness of the hosting against Torvin's willpower, he had to ensure that Torvin couldn't, overpower Zoran's influence, which is why he ordered Torvin to kill Sandra and her tribe. Because he felt that what's the strongest thing that someone could fight against is the people, killing the people that he loves. Which is why he killed the tribe and why he took so long to kill said tribe.
How self-aware was Torvin then? Did he kind of
not much. I think he was there in the background, but he had not watching a TV essentially.
Okay.
The sunken place.
I was literally thinking that. Yeah.
Obviously, once all of it was a success, and Torvin, Shurik was able to get all this information out of Zoran about the demons, the demon realm, how to get there, how to absorb.
So none of the other overlords ever realised what Shurik was up to.
No, they were all segregated for that reason.
Yeah,
that's why there's a segregation.
They're all just as bad.
And that's also why Shurik wanted to be in the area that no one else could get to.
Yeah,
that's why because he was the one who picked Zia first. He first wanted to pick somewhere. And he picked Zia. He wanted to be away from everybody, even if there was a chance of them breaking one of the walls. He wanted to be away from everyone so he could do this stuff in isolation.
Just because I didn't quite catch. I'm just what exactly happened between Dearest Mum and Dad? Because did Sandra just sort of go, "Oh, I'm pregnant. I'm going to go be with my tribe. You go do your thing, Torvin."
Basically, I mean, she was pregnant. Fighting on the front line while you're pregnant would only endanger the baby.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there wasn't any Torvin, come home to me after your.
Well, I mean, when you're that in the thick of stuff as an overlord, you know how dangerous this threat is. Taking away a able body, especially someone as proficient as Torvin, would only make things worse.
Okay.
So and he figured
between that and the possession. Between that and the possession, he never came to visit or anything.
No.
Oh man. No. Okay.
Maybe once or twice when you were a baby, but not anything you'd remember.
Oh no! I'm not saying Aramil would remember. I'm saying
Yeah. He probably visited once or twice when his duties allowed him. Before he got possessed.
Yeah.
But establishing the Black Sleeves and maintaining that, as Riardon will find out, is very intensive. It's a lot of work.
So's Riardon.
So he couldn't really get away as much. But again, Sandra understands. She knows how important his job is, because as far as again at the time, the Black Sleeves were doing a good thing. They were helping rebuild the world.
Yeah.
Back to its former glory, so they that work is important. And obviously Sandra was the healer as a druid. She was a healer in that group.
Sandra was the healer, and she was an overlord. That is really weird.
Yeah. Zyril. So originally he was the owner of a pub called the Ale Hole. It's actually a pub that a lot of the Mulvey crew would frequent while the ship was being built. During sort of the journey of the overlords, they would often go to the pub to relax. They found it quite nice. It was quite quiet. They would tell they would talk about their journey and their adventures. Zyril would sort of lend an ear to their troubles with his own sort of blunt and light-hearted take. Shurik kind of came to respect him for his honesty. Obviously, Zyril would hit on Finellia and Sandra quite regularly. But at this
bastard.
Yeah, but at this time, Sandra was taken or was more in love with Torvin. Finellia were happy to oblige.
Jeez. Did they get on?
And it was during they did, yeah. And it was during the sort of these events that Zyril would pick up on spells like Mage Hand. Before the segregation, Shurik was basically kind of collecting people that he had met on his journey to try and form his super city, essentially. And he asked Zyril to move to Zia, and basically wanted to appoint him as mayor because he wanted a charismatic figurehead that wasn't that clever. And he wanted someone he could easily manipulate and who would easily get across his virtues in a positive way that would hide his true intentions.
So Zyril wasn't evil all along?
No. So Zyril had no idea, because again...
I was so convinced he was evil.
Yeah, of course. So, Shurik obviously was very evil, but he was very charismatic as well, which is why he got away with it. Zyril had no idea what his true intentions were. Due to all the experimentation that Shurik had done on Zyril, he was actually a level 20 Warlock, which is why he took your beams and didn't die from it.
We should have tried harder to kill him.
Was quite fun, actually, building Zyril to level 20. One thing that you never found out, because I think mostly because the dragon didn't roll high enough, was the glyph on the door to the cathedral in Zia, the one that spelt my name, was called the Ubi glyph, and it actually stands for, this took me a while, Unbreakable Barrier Housing Infinite Environments. It's actually designed to keep teleporting those with the key card to different dimensions to basically so they don't end up where the door actually leads. Right. If the password is spoken when the key is presented, then you bypass it.
I knew Shurik had like a way to bypass it, but I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Yeah. So obviously you never said I didn't make one because you never would have known it.
Like, I'm Shurik, I'm the greatest, let me in.
Yeah, it would have been funny. But I didn't make one because there was no realistic way. Because the only people that would have known it is Shurik and Torvin, and you killed Torvin, and Shurik was all not there. So, and there's no way you would have asked Torvin.
I mean, we were full out killing him at that point, and yep.
Yeah, so I didn't make a password. I would have made one up on the spot if it ever came to that. Zuvia. So this is the guy who tried to kill Argh back in South Bron. With the rapier that was set on fire.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
Yeah. So he was teleported to the astral plane when he was plane shifted by Aramil. But when Shurik opened his portal to the demon plane, essentially he didn't quite do it in a graceful way because of it was very forcefully created magic wise. It kind of created a vacuum through the astral plane, a one-way vacuum, which I'll get to in a minute. One-way vacuum to the demon plane, which basically sucked Zuvio into the demon plane.
I'm surprised I didn't grab that dragon turtle either.
That was in the ethereal plane, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, but I wasn't sure how much of this vacuum was going on.
No, it's only through because remember the astral plane connects the planes together.
The plane between planes, yeah. So you, in order to teleport to the demon realm or vice versa, you have to go through. It's like the tunnel. Yeah.
So when he arrived, obviously this place was full of demons. He basically tried to fight his way just to survive. The reason he got so far is just because of the time difference. Normally he wouldn't have really had much of an issue because he was quite strong, but because his weapon is fire-based and being in the demon realm, everything existed to fire. He had a bit of a rough time.
Why did he want to kill Argh? Did we ever find out?
He was hired to by Demeric.
Because
Demeric knew that people were obviously killing the overlords, and Demeric is by far the smartest overlord. Considering, and he could easily track the path. Amaris, Gorath, Finellia. He's clearly next.
Why was it targeted at Argh? Did he only know about Argh?
Because of the message that Argh left.
Argh
Yes.
message.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. Oh, yeah.
Zuvia was also in the first tavern that you guys visited in South Bron. He was the guy that was laughing to himself at the bar. I don't know if you remember that Torvin was like looking for people in the bar to talk to. And there's like, I gave him 3 options.
Oh, I remember that.
Talion was looking for people because he was looking for monsters.
There was a guy at the bar laughing to himself. There was like a woman with the cards, like studying the cards, and the one guy that was just like sitting by, like everyone was sitting away from him.
I ended up talking to the woman, didn't I?
And he talked to the woman. If you had spoken to the guy at the bar, you would have spoken to Zuvio.
The woman annoyed Talion, so I think he got distracted.
And he actually was listening in on you guys as well.
Okay.
Which you failed to. I did roll a stealth for, and he passed.
I don't think Talion was trying to.
No.
He was. I spent the whole evening staring at the woman.
Yeah, I know. Which he did find amusing. He did have magical items on him. His weapon is a flame tongue, so it basically deals some extra fire damage. Mm-hmm. His something I hoped Aramil actually got. His tankard actually was made out of Navarite and had the Gaff equation on it. Actually, no. Sorry, made out of steel, but it had the Gaff equation on it on the bottom. If you spoke its sort of command word and specified a beverage, it would have filled with said beverage.
Oh my god!
It was also, because it was also strengthened by the Gaff equation and served as a shield.
It's probably for the best. We didn't get that.
So unfortunately, you didn't get it. I was hoping that you would have gotten the item, but you did not.
That would have been incredible. The only thing is, if it was metal, Aramil wouldn't have used it anyway.
It's a tankard, so most tankards are metal.
Yeah, that's true, but you can get wooden tankards and that. Trust me, he would have been adverse to it because of that.
Fair enough.
He wasn't a fan of using a sword either.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I would just. Yeah, fair enough. So that's the bits of misinformation. So what I'm going to go through now is basically what happened in each region after the overlords were killed. So the South Valley. So after Amaris's defeat, Gorath's army invaded, as you guys know, because they didn't have to fear the mind control magic. So a lot of people actually think that the ward is there to protect South Valley from Gorath. It's actually the other way around. When obviously the invasion started, Darius actually had his quills within Gorath's army, because he had spies in there, and he instructed them to acquire Amaris's notes on Navarite that were in his fortress. The other quills in South Valley basically tried to get people to safety as much as they could.
Did you die in the pillaging?
I'll get to that. The army found Hron, so even though it was hidden in the mountain, they found it, and they decimated it. Fortunately, obviously, Goldbrick got out. When they got to Stren, which is where Geoff was, Geoff basically tried to assist the guards defending the town by healing them, but he was eventually overrun and killed.
I thought you were going to say he offered to heal the enemy troops.
No.
Switch sides.
No, but he was killed. Krint never stood a chance. I mean, that was like a small village that,
Poor Krint.
Pancake Lady.
No tears will be shed.
Yeah, Pancake Lady did not survive.
Pancake Lady.
Lord died as well. Remember Lord?
Not Lord.
He did go back to the Druid camp and tried to rebuild, but he was killed. He basically tried to run, he fell over and got stampeded and trampled to death.
No.
That's useless.
More noble ways.
After Gorath and his generals were killed by yourselves, the Quills had a much easier time repelling the army because they weren't getting any orders. So as a result, the bottom quarter of South Valley was spared. The rest of it, however, was left in ruins and destroyed.
Oh, but I guess my Druid tribe's never being rebuilt ever.
So, well, who knows? I mean, so basically there was a soft timer. The longer you took to defeat Gorath, the more of South Valley got destroyed. So if you'd done it sooner, more would have been spared.
Yeah, okay.
Once again, my Skype died.
So, yeah. North Valley. So after Gorath's defeat, the region didn't change a great deal. Obviously, the final circle went on to liberate more magic users. They did eventually re-establish themselves in the region because they started to rebuild it with their magic and sort of rejuvenate it back to its former glory, which obviously got their name recognized and people started to appreciate them more.
Excellent. Plant growth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, this is it. Like with their magic, they could do a bit of plant growth, do some mending, with way less effort than everyone else. Yep. Darius also deployed his quills to the site of Navaros's death to basically farm the Navarite in the area. Now he has clear access to it because that's where Navaros was defeated. He was defeated in North Valley, sorry. So North Bran. So after the destruction of the Scanor crystal, the magic surrounding its North Bran stopped, obviously. As a result, all the public lost their extra magical abilities, and the region turned back into a desert. However, due to the public being overweight, they were way too slow to adapt to the climate, and the sandstorms basically killed most of them.
Wow, that's just natural selection.
Basically, yeah. Obviously, some people did survive, but most of them didn't. Obviously, the quills did go in to save people, like put them in, build the shelters, but it did take a while to get to that point. Cirilla's parents are among the people that were killed. After Fenelia's demise, Darius sent his quills in to the Academy of Magic to basically get all the books in her library and any magic research they could find. Obviously, they got quite a lot. They did, however, find like remnants of the intellect devourer, like brain, like scattered because it was exploded. They thought if they could piece back the brain together, they could extract the magical knowledge from it.
Sounds like a bad
if they just revived like the brain and not the rest of it, which they were successful in doing. However, obviously, bringing back the brain brought the intellect devourer back to life.
Oh no!
Fortunately, they were able to paralyze it pretty quickly before it could do any damage. Because Darius is a very cautious person. He didn't trust even Fenelia's brain. So they were able to paralyze it, hold monster or whatever. They then subsequently probed the intellect devourer for its magical knowledge.
Nice. Well done, Darius.
Yeah. That might help.
Yeah,
down.
Indeed. South Bron. So, with the death of Demeric and the destruction of the Metal Men's network link, thanks to Aramil, there was a confusion between them, like between the Metal Men. Now, due to the conversation with Aramil about the concept of free will, they actually had a basis to form their independence quite quickly.
Excellent.
Much to probably Matt's characters. He thanks you for that.
Thank you for that, yeah. I expect that conversation to be written in a ledger just somewhere perfectly in the library, their digital library somewhere. This is what taught us.
Yeah. However, the general public weren't aware of this. They weren't aware that the neural network went down.
Didn't hundreds of them die because they all had metal implants and stuff? Or thousands, probably.
I'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
So in order to create the Gaff equation, only Demeric knew it. So Demeric would create magical scrolls that would contain the Gaff equation. So he would put like charges of it in there. He would give it to people that he would call technomancers, and they would have only enough knowledge to be able to apply the Gaff equation from the scroll onto an item. Obviously, with Demeric gone, the scrolls ran out eventually. So production of Gaff equation stuff stopped. That includes metal men, limbs, any buildings, everything. All of that stuff had stopped. No one noticed until they needed new things because people were careless generally. You break a phone nowadays, you'll just get a new one. But what happens when the phone production stops? People go nuts. Because of this technology just stopped production. People led to riots. which actually took to attacking the metal men directly because they blamed them as well, because obviously they're part of Demeric's workforce. They felt that they were to blame.
Mm-hmm.
This eventually ended up in a civil war between Crisians and metal men in South Brom. Thanks to the independence, some metal men were actually able to attack back. Others fled. And without metal men, the barriers around the settlements weren't being maintained and eventually failed, leaving the monsters outside to attack people inside. So again, most of the population was killed.
We just wiped out like that whole continent, basically.
Yeah.
This is why in Hellsjaw there isn't as many settlements as you would probably think in a whole planet, and why there aren't that many people. They obviously tried to repopulate, but obviously it's still quite dangerous. The metal men that were left formed two different societies. One that wanted to go back to helping Crisians, and the one that didn't. The ones that didn't refer to themselves as the Warforged, because they were forged from the ashes of the Civil War, and they somehow maintained Demeric's bad naming convention. They then retreated underground, basically, to be away from Crisians altogether, and established themselves pretty well.
Do they remember who Talion was?
Yes, so every metal man maintains knowledge that they had previously, up until obviously the point that thing was destroyed. So they would know everything up until that point, so including Matt's character. So Matt's character would have a very high encyclopedic knowledge of the events.
Wow, so it would have basically been like you were there interacting with Talion yourself.
Essentially. Yeah, it would. Yeah. And the conversation with Aramil and all that.
In fact, that means the Metal Men or the Warforged basically know of all the originators, right? Because we were all spoke to them.
We're the overthrowers.
They don't necessarily know that you killed
them. The overthrowers.
Actually, they would. Well, they do know, actually, don't they? Yeah, because
that's probably common knowledge.
Yeah.
So, and they know the overthrowers. They just have more.
God, I'm so looking forward to my new character's conversation with the Warforged.
But unfortunately, however, due to the destruction of Demeric's workshop, obviously as part of the Civil War, no more metal men can be created. So they are a slowly diminishing race. After Demeric's death, Darius sent in the quills to his workshop to take any notes he could find on the Gaff equation, so he can get his own engineers and mages to basically reverse engineer it and try and replicate it to help all of Crisia, not just South Brom.
Is Darius actually that much of a nice guy? Like, he's basically got like all the secrets to the world.
He's trying to
mess
rebuild
with my fucking family, man.
Talion would have definitely killed him if he survived. Like, Darius has way too much knowledge.
So,
Grandpa's a good guy.
So,
did he get any success?
Yes.
Rebuilding the Gaff equation.
So you'll find in Hellsjaw that the Gaff equation is very prominent. It's just implemented differently. Yeah. So, because Demeric is a genius, no one can replace that. So it's not going to be as powerful as what it used to be, but it's pretty good. So with Zia, with Shurik defeated, the dragons descended onto Zia in peace and informed the residents of Shurik's intentions, and helped them cure themselves of their demonization, using their obviously extensive magic knowledge. There were some that didn't want to be cured, like Zyril, and the dragons respected that. There was their choice to what they wanted to do. Some decided they wanted to go home, some stayed in Zia, but ultimately it stayed very similar to the way it is. And on the whole, Darius, there was nothing dodgy about Darius.
I knew it.
I still don't believe it. We're lucky that he died, basically.
Yeah, he is a nice guy. He was obviously just trying to help in a bad situation.
I guarantee if he had survived longer, he would have been corrupted by all his power.
No, I wouldn't. Well, not as far as I'm concerned.
He was going to die in a year.
Power corrupts, man. He
was going to die in a year anyway. Yeah. Oh, and
power.
I was going to say, Riardon's going to be corrupted with power.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll also add, which again is just something you missed, is his what killed him basically. So he had a growth. So basically, what ended up happening is when he was fighting Navros and all that stuff, he got his throat crushed, and obviously nearly died. Now Torvin, obviously in a panic, got every healer he could find and told them to heal his throat. Which they did. However, they may have healed it too well, and it left a growth in his neck. Eventually, this growth got bigger and bigger, and they tried to heal it, and it just made it bigger. Got to the point that he couldn't talk as well, which is why when I spoke with him, he had a very low voice, but when he spoke in his mind, he had a normal voice.
Okay.
But by the time he got out of the demon realm, that growth basically completely crushed his vocal cords. He couldn't talk anymore.
I see.
So, and the scientists, I guess, healers, have basically coined it as something called overcuring. So when someone's cured too much, their body basically keeps curing itself after the spell happens, essentially causing cancer.
I see. Trust me, guys, it was for the best. Okay.
So,
whoa,
it was too much power.
Actually, fuck you, dude. Actually, fuck you. That's my grandpa you're talking about.
Guys. Too much power.
So, because Darius is the first person who was inflicted by it, it is called the Darius syndrome, which is going to be a thing in Hell's Jaw as well.
Okay.
It's why a lot of people actually don't get healed by magic.
Can you overheal the enemy? That's all I want to know.
No. Obviously,
much die in 10 years.
Much like
I'll give you cancer.
Much like actual cancer, like it's not something you could just do right there and then. It takes time, and and it doesn't always affect everybody.
Bloody good threat though.
A sick bastard.
If we've got to interrogate anyone, it's a fucking good threat.
Instant.
I don't think you couldn't in an interrogation cure somebody to cancer. There's no way.
No, but they just need to believe we can.
So true.
Yeah. But so that's basically was the reasoning behind that. Trying to think anything else I want to go through quickly. Oh, your weapons. I'll go through these. So obviously the fire one, Kazachi, Flame of Vengeance, and his abilities. The lightning one, Raigetsu, the Spark of Death.
Mm-hmm.
The ice one, so Frostbite, his actual name is Hyoken, the Dark Winter.
Winter is coming.
So it's Dawn ability, so the one you could use once a day. The blade bursts into tiny ice fragments that surround you, that makes you partly and non-magically invisible, even to true sight.
That's awesome.
This causes all your attacks to have advantage.
That is fucking cool.
That's so good.
I would have been.
So because it's not, you're not magically covering yourself. You're essentially camouflaged. No sight's going to see through that. Apart from blind sight, maybe.
Yeah.
The stab ability would have obviously turned you into a black ice elemental, which you'd have been turned to completely non-magically invisible, basically, as well. So you're black ice, invisible. You have the temporary hit points and all that business, and all your attacks become critical hits, but you revert after 30 seconds. So it only lasts 30 seconds. So about 5 turns?
Yeah, five rounds.
Yeah, that's 5 rounds.
Oh, sorry, 5 of his rounds. Quick question: were the abilities different when I was wielding it?
Yes.
Do you have those written down?
No, because I didn't make them up by that point.
Okay, fair enough.
If you had had it, it would have been different.
I like how Talions were just like pure destruction.
Because again, they molded to the person. That's why because that's why your engravements changed, because they fit the user. So that's why when Aramil had it, it was a tree. When Riardon had it, it turned into mist.
That's cool.
So that's why it changed.
What would have been the Thunder one?
Yep. So the Thunder one would have been Fukaze, the Roar of Justice. So basically, in the Dawn one, the weapon attack cuts into the very air itself, creating a 60-foot energy wave, dealing half the character's level rounded down D10s of thunder damage to all enemies in that cone.
Nice. Wow, that would have been really good.
If you had stabbed yourself, again, you become a humanoid thunder elemental. You would have had, but you would still would have. No one else would have had this. You would have been holding the weapon in your hand still, while transformed. So you can imagine you're a thunder dragon elemental, still wielding a greatsword made out of thunder itself. And attacks will automatically deal the same damage to another chosen creature within 120 foot. So you basically, any damage you would have dealt to a single person would have been dealt to another person.
Wow.
Within the last 30 seconds, which, considering the damage output of the Star Creek, you can it's immense. So for Haiss, if you had stabbed yourself with both weapons, what would have ended up happening is you would have gone to your mind world essentially, and your two elementals would have fused together. They would have formed a plasma elemental called Purgechi, the blood of purgatory.
Oh shit, I should have done that. Oh god, that's quite cool.
But to do this, you would have turned yourself into a humanoid plasma elemental, would have gained 300 temporary hit points. All your strength, dex, and constitution would have become 20 if it wasn't already. You would have become immune to fire, lightning, and poison, as well as all the conditions. Your axe would have dealt 3d10 fire damage and 3d10 lightning damage, or bludgeoning. You would have reverted after 1 minute, but you would have gone to 0 HP.
So it would have been like death, basically.
Basically, you would have died afterwards because your heart would not have been able to cope with it.
Yeah.
If you had stabbed yourself with one elemental and stabbed yourself with another, you would just go straight to 0.
Okay.
You wouldn't been able to cope with it. But yeah,
cool. That's cool.
So that's that. That's all the missed info. I don't know if there's any other questions in terms of what I've just told you. I know it was a lot.
I don't think so.
Okay. So then, yeah, it was a lot. Well, this is all the stuff I had in the background while stuff was going on. Some of it I wrote after the fact. Some I wrote beforehand. A lot of the Sandra stuff was written after the fact. Sort of as you kind of more entered near the end. So like when the tribe was killed, that's why it was originally about reputation. But I changed it to make it for a better story.
Yeah, fair enough.
And the same with the astral maggots, because the astral maggots were like not supposed to be a thing.
And then I made them a thing.
You made them a thing, so I basically decided to make them, build on that more. But yeah, so now I'm open to you guys. So if there's any other questions you guys had for me,
are we going to run through the doc? Because I know there's some
just everything on the sheet. Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll see what else we've got. Yeah.
Everything we haven't already.
Yeah,
covered.
I mean, interested in your opinions on it.
Yeah. I must say as well. I would just like to say I like what you did with my mother, being that I had absolutely no fucking clue.
Yeah.
Hashtag main character.
Oh, there was a thing around that. Yeah, something I want to avoid going forward is having like a main character. It was a bit much. You did have plot armor a few times.
I definitely had plot armor, 100%.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know who's going to ask the first question then.
Oh, I thought we were running through in order.
Yeah, I don't. Well, whoever wrote them.
I know I wasn't number one, so I'll wait. I'll let whoever asked it.
I am not actually looking at the doc, and I'm afraid.
The first question was, how did the Overlords destroy Navaros? But it wasn't me.
I was going to say, can we just have a reader, because I don't want to accidentally open my Google Drive and accidentally reveal something on a caption thing while this is going on.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I can't tell you anyway how they defeated Navaros because, next campaign.
Well, they removed that crystal from him.
Yeah.
The shard, right?
Yeah.
That's probably it.
Who knows?
All right, the next question. Oh, does somebody else want to read it out, actually? Because it's harder for me to go through the doc. Anyone? Has anyone got it open who can read it out?
I can open it if I log in.
I'm recording, and I've got other things on docs that I don't want to accidentally reveal.
I'm opening it. Okay. What would each of the Overlords have done had they not been killed?
That's a good one.
So they were after their own form of world domination. So Amaris was they all had their own ideas on how they were going to take over the world, essentially. So Amaris would eventually try to use his mind control to take over the world to do his bidding. Gorath would have taken it all by force, basically just muscled his way through. Fenelia would have just carried on being herself, really. That the rumor of her wanting to destroy the planet was pretty unfounded. It was just a rumor somebody came up with that just turned out to be not true.
Darius lied to us. I told you he was evil.
No, it was a rumor. Nobody knows.
It all along.
So, but no, she was just happy to keep learning, basically, as far as the intellect of Aura was concerned. So yeah, she had no real issues. And Demeric basically wanted to replace everybody with metal men because he thinks people are scum.
Relatable.
And Shurik obviously, wanted to rule it with an iron fist with its power and everything.
Okay.
You never said actually what happened to the people with implants and stuff.
Oh, sorry. So basically, they carried on working. So any Gaff equation that was in place was maintained. So it stayed active. The issue was when they broke. Yeah. There was no one to fix them.
Oh, damn, Talion, you could have had your bionic eye.
There's no,
well, it would have just given Navros even more things to use against us, so it was for the best.
Yeah, so, true.
When your stuff breaks and there's no tech support, what can you do? So just because, say Android goes under or whatever, Samsung goes under, your phone will still work. But once it breaks, there's no one there that's going to help you.
Yeah, true.
So that was the logic behind it. So if you had gotten implants, you would have been fine until they broke, and then no one would have really been able to help you.
I got turned into demon anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
What scenario / NPC did we miss, which you would have most enjoyed experiencing?
Probably Zoo. Even though I added him later, and probably more closer to the time, Zuvio was quite fun. Especially with the stuff that he had, with his personality. And generally, he was quite strong as well. He would have been quite a formidable person against you.
#sorry, not sorry.
So that's something I kind of hoped you got more into, as an NPC wise, more into him. Perhaps it wasn't meant to be.
Who was your favourite NPC then?
It's got to be Crisia, surely.
That's tricky, because a lot of the really good ones were done on the spot. So Crisia,
would have given him plot armor.
were quite cool. They were fun because they were on the spot and they ended up being really cool. But I think in terms of the characters I planned from the beginning, Torvin was probably one of my favorites because of just everything that had happened to him.
Yep, Torvin had a lot going on.
Yeah, but the interactions with Torvin were pretty good.
All of his stuff was in the background. That's why he had a lot of problems, but not because he was possessed. It would never have come to light. And he internalized them all. So even that's why Darius never knew.
I mean, it's an excellent. If you think about it, if you just had Torvin's story as a linear thing, I'd say that's quite an excellent tragic story.
Killed by his own son.
Yeah.
First thing he sees when he wakes up. Damn it, Aramil.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault. We all thought he was just trying to kill us.
I mean, Talion would have killed him either way, to be honest. I think he'd invested too much in his vengeance.
Very true.
Next question is to do with Talion, funnily enough. This wasn't me, even though I was going to ask it.
Jeez.
What would have happened if Talion overused his mask?
Nothing really. It would have just gotten more creepy. He would have started making out with you eventually.
We want to see
creepy.
Super grim.
So
he had basically Verzertal had a weird infatuation with Talion, unhealthy. For whatever reason, I have no idea. It just ended up being that way. He had some weird attraction towards you.
That's fair enough. I can understand.
Wow. I can understand.
When Aramil got put into the ethereal plane by Cirilla's parents, what would have happened if Ciri didn't notice?
I don't know.
Would I have
to
been
be
stuck
honest,
there? Be honest.
You probably would have been stuck there. I mean, I was kind of hoping that you would have been spotted. I mean, when I originally wrote that part, you were all going to be there.
But
when I wrote it, you were all going to be there, and you were all going to be teleported, and they would have made it like all of you. But again, like as soon as you like got too far away, they would have just faded because their magic isn't that great. They didn't exactly make a whole person. It was just an illusion to get you up, to get you to stay. Once you agreed to stay, they would have just, that would have been more of an end of Cirilla. They would have released everybody else.
Okay.
So if Cirilla had agreed to stay, Cirilla would have been out of the campaign. They would have then released everyone else because they weren't that evil. They just wanted their daughter back. So they would have just released you all outside.
Okay.
Interesting. Who is your favourite overlord to play as? So 2 answers. 1 for the role play and 1 for the combat.
I actually really like playing Aramil, just because he was just like really sleazy. But I think Goroth was my favourite in terms of combat. But it's a shame that I couldn't really utilise it because he was basically crowd controlled.
Sounds right.
All right. It's like because I was looking forward to him. The fact that he was like so many extra attacks, had rage, had 2 great axes, and all of this thrown in, plus his shape changing. Actually, that's a scenario I wish you had encountered, because what I was going to do is have you have like a one-on-one fight, which each of his.
I remember you said at the time that we went to.
That's a scenario I was looking forward to, but again, never happened. It's all right.
The next series of questions are mine, so I might as well ask these. What was in the card's chest you answered? Yeah, so one of my questions was why was there like a deeper reason as to why the overlords all just became like basically evil after saving the world, or was there nothing in particular?
So basically what happened, the thing is, they were, apart from Shurek, really, they were all kind of trying to be good people. Like, they're trying to save the world to a certain extent. The problem was that when they saved the world, they obviously got showered with praise and gifts and just like almost like revered as gods. And eventually it got to their heads.
It's almost like power corrupts.
Basically, yeah, exactly. But the idea was it like the whole campaign, really, like when my first thing I started with, what happens after an RPG finishes? Like after an RPG, like I just finished Dragon Quest 11, like the heroes save the world, and obviously because it's an RPG, what happens to them afterwards? Like everyone knows these guys save the world. Well, what happens after? You can't just tell me they go back to their normal lives and no one talks to them ever again. That's not going to happen. If someone saved the world in real life, people would be on their case all the time. The press would be on them all the time. People would be like, there'd be celebrities of the highest type, of the highest caliber. Eventually, you're gonna get that to your head, and eventually, if people give you the world, you start wanting to take the world. And then what ended up happening was they all wanted the world for themselves. That wasn't gonna happen because they all had a different vision of the world. So Shurek decided that they all got a section of it instead and ruled it the way they wanted to, as long as they were kept separate from everybody else. Which is how the segregation happened.
Okay.
That gives me serious Lord Ruler vibes. Serious Lord Ruler vibes.
You will see more about him. I've answered some of these.
Yeah, I've dashed the ones that we've been answered throughout the thing.
Just skip the ones that we've already answered.
Yeah. What was the thing that we did that surprised you the most?
It's not one of mine.
I think it was the army against Goroth. That you had the final circle people, and you managed to persuade the guys at the bottom of the Broadband Mountain to go with you as well. I mean, you basically went up there with an army, and you had the whole army by the time you got to the end of it as well. Like, just that whole thing was incredible. That's what surprised me, that you managed to be able to do something like that.
And what frustrated you the most?
Plane shifts.
I'm sorry, but it was just too good.
It's too broken. Like, it's
You take it away from
it's
him.
so fucking ace, man. But to be entirely fair, like you've got to do like chances wise in a melee sense. It's you've got to be close enough to touch them. They've got to do a dex save. You've got to roll to attack. There's like multitude of things that you have to go through before it happens.
Yeah,
I was just really fucking lucky, and then I got portent.
Well, this is it. Yeah. So it's yeah. I mean, but obviously at the same time, it's like, you know, you as a DM, you create these fights, you structure these fights, and then they're like, oh, by the way, no.
And then I broke, and then it got broken.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So that's probably the only thing that frustrated me the most. But generally, I wasn't really that bothered by stuff. You know, you did find inventive ways to do things. But no, I loved it as a whole.
I'm just going to jump ahead quickly because I've only got one more question on this list, which I recognise. If hypothetically we decided to not trust Darius, what would have happened? Because my thinking was, what if we just said to Darius, like, "Fuck you, we don't believe what you're saying." What would you have done?
I would have stayed with him because I kind of trust him.
Yeah,
Aramil just found out about his father and grandfather. I don't think he would have ever left.
Let's just say there was like a split in the party and a bunch of people we don't want to stick with Darius. Because I mean, Talion and Starcreep both didn't trust him, right?
Yeah.
So let's say there was like more of a big split in the party.
Yeah. I think this was, again, just bad writing on my part to have such an important story point be a choice. My aim was to make it so appealing that you would never refuse. That was my aim. I think ultimately, if there was a split in the party, the people who decided not to join would have to end the campaign, unless they decided to follow the party afterwards, which kind of like what Argh did, really.
Yeah.
So that could have happened potentially if the whole party decided to say no. Probably. I mean, you could have tried carrying on as you were, but I don't know how you would have crossed the White Ocean.
Yeah.
Like, you probably would have run into a brick wall eventually. I mean, again, it probably could have been done. You could have commissioned somebody, but it would have been impossible.
I mean, what prompted it is I was just thinking that if it hadn't been for the revenge factor, Talion would never have gone along with Darius. It was literally because it was such a big driving factor for him that he decided to go along with it. But I guess you deliberately did that. So
exactly. I made that on purpose, and that's why he was there that's why he was baited in front of you as well. Because if I hadn't had it there, it wouldn't have spurred Talion on as much.
Yeah, that's true.
For him being there and not being there, you know, him being there as an astral projection was ideally a chance to rile you up. That's why Darius offered you the stuff after Torvin's meeting and not before.
That bastard. Yeah.
So that was the only thing with that. So yeah, if you had said no, you probably would have had to either exit the campaign or somehow found a way to rejoin the party after the fact without Darius killing you in the meantime.
I think, to be fair, like, thinking about it, I wouldn't say you wrote it completely poorly, like giving us a choice and everything, because you had three of 5 characters with vested interest in going with Darius.
Yeah.
So we all went with it. Yeah, Starcreep took a little bit of convincing, but Riardon had always worked with him. Aramil had just found out it's his grandfather. Talion always wants revenge. Ciri's pretty happy to go along for the ride, so it was kind of like... I wouldn't have said you wrote that poorly. I think that choice was a fair one, and I think you managed to use our backstories in a good way to convince us to go with it.
Cool. No, well, thank you. I mean, my aim was hopefully to put Starcreek's like sense of duty and like being part of something again. Like that was his motivation, like and saving the world and stuff. That was kind of my hope. But obviously,
I think that would have worked if he hadn't have died.
Yeah, I think the dying thing kind of changed that, and there was no way for me to rewrite.
Changed him, man. Changed him.
There was no way for me to like rewrite that, basically. Like to change, because Darren wouldn't have known, so he would have to do it based on what his knowledge.
Yeah.
I'll hand back over to Matt because those are my questions.
What part of the story or parts of the story do we have a choice in completing / not complete? So what parts were we railroaded? I put it in quotes because it's not quite true. But what points did do we have the option to complete how we wanted to, and what parts were pretty much as written?
Yeah. So this is the thing. Like, I think as a DM, you're quite harsh on yourself. So I always felt like this was a very linear story. Like you had to follow these steps. But I tried as hard as I could to make it feel like there was a choice and you were doing things like the way that you wanted to do them. So, which is why a lot of the time I would make things to go with what you're doing and then make their lore after the fact. Like the final circle is, and the Mulvey for crew was examples of that. That you wanted to find this magical gulag. So, and you were very adamant about it, and I had no intent. I previously had no intention of you guys doing that, so I created one.
Thank you.
Demeric and Fenelia. I mean, Fenelia, there was multiple ways you could have gotten in. You didn't have to take the test. You could have found multiple ways of doing that. I don't know what they are. They would have come to me at the time. Demeric's, again, I mean, Demeric, you could have gone through. I had planned for you to go through the front door. I had this whole place set up, this whole factory.
As soon as I saw the guards, I was like, "There's no chance I'm walking in there." I mean, also, I think it's the anti-magic thing as well. I didn't want to walk into.
Yeah, if I can move you to that factory. Sorry, this thing's so long. I have to keep teleport you to random maps.
Scrolling.
Yeah, I have to do that on Curse of Strahd. You can drag the things around, which I sometimes do, but yeah, it's cool. There needs to be a better system.
Mine in order.
There needs to be a better system.
Drag the things around? I've got to
you can drag them around.
I've got to organise mine.
So in this one, for example, obviously you only saw a little part of it.
Reveal all areas.
Oh, we should do that with any other maps we haven't seen.
So then, but if I was to remove the fog of war,
it's a huge map. Oh my god!
Wow, that would take us forever to get those
robots. Oh my god, all those metalmen as well.
I had a tour planned and everything. We were going to go on a tour and all of this business, see how things were made, technomancers.
We just flew in.
There would have been a replica neural network cube thing.
Oh wow!
All of that. I would have put all of that in, but obviously you didn't do it.
How many of the rocks did I need to destroy to shut down all the metalmen?
Just the one.
Just the one. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I found it in.
Yeah, you found it. I mean,
it.
Yeah. I mean, he kept it close to him. He didn't want it near anyone.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty funny that we just flew in the back for that one.
Yeah. So, so there were times where I thought I had it planned out, but you found other ways around it. Actually, while I'm doing this, let's do the big one.
Oh yeah.
What I'll do actually, let me get my notes on what the rooms were. Actually, do you want to go for any more questions first? Because this is a lot. There's a lot in here.
Okay, so there's only a handful left. So if any of the surviving characters, this is mainly for Riardon, really, because he's the one that was in that ruling position. But if any of them wanted to rule in the epilogue, so be in charge of the world, would they be so in Hell's Jaw?
Oh, I asked this question as well.
Probably not, because I would have found a way for it not to happen.
Just get struck by lightning.
I mean, I'm still going to be alive.
People would have rebelled. To be honest, the only people I could imagine even doing it is Talion. I can't imagine it would be. And if anyone even tried, I would probably question the decision, because I don't really think anyone else has it in them to want to rule the world. Cirilla just wants to be famous. She doesn't want to rule. Argh just wants to study. He doesn't want to rule anything. Aramil is just being Aramil. He's not going to rule. So I didn't really think
he's just being Aramil.
I didn't really think it was going to be in any one of your natures. And in terms of Talion, I had the fail-safe anyway in place. So it wouldn't have been a thing. So
okay. So there's 3 left. So would there been any way for us to deal with the overlords without killing them?
I'm also curious about this. Yeah.
Potentially.
Considering Talion tried to talk to all of them and he's got shut down.
Potentially, but you would have to research them specific somehow
What if
I don't know, like how would you? Because
and
like
said that like we want to help, which I think Talion did say to Demeric or someone maybe. What if we were to help you in whatever?
Because you said that Finilia, our information on Finilia was wrong, and she just wanted to learn, and so if we had learned that and used that, would that have been?
Yeah, you could have potentially like changed her. If you had found, I mean, I don't know how you would have done. If you'd found out that the rumors about her was false and she's just interested in learning, and you somehow enticed her with that, bearing in mind she already knows about Darius's extensive knowledge, you'd have to have somehow found knowledge that was more extensive than Darius's whole library and her whole library.
Talion actually tried it with Shah, but then she wasn't buying.
No, Shah would never have gone for it.
No, Talion said that. I can't remember what I said exactly, but he said something like, "I can tell you something that you don't."
Yeah, you could like give like the Overlord's minds or something.
Something like that. I can't remember.
But like that's not how that works. You have to enter a pact with them willingly for it to work. And she's not. To her, they're just people. Like, when you're talking about God level, everyone else is nowhere. Everyone's the same.
Yeah.
I think if we had a way of talking to Ogma more, that probably would have enticed her.
Yeah, I mean,
gaining
the assistance of gods might have helped you potentially.
I didn't. I mean, Talion wouldn't have thought of it anyway. But
no, and that's the thing. I don't think any of your characters. Well, maybe potentially.
Aramil's religious nature wasn't that extensive.
Yeah. Well, none of you were very religious generally.
No.
So, I mean, I know you had the God book, but you didn't really read it as much.
I only got that book to make evil pacts. I didn't get it for any other reason.
Exactly. So, I think it was possible. It would have been a stretch for this particular band of characters to do it. I think.
Maybe Cross could have convinced them to see the good in themselves.
Potentially. Because the thing is, like, the other thing, Riardon took Aramiris's notes, his diary. If you had read it, you would have found out about their journeys together. You could have used that against them. Because remember, they were all good people once. If you had them see the light of their old ways, maybe that would have done something.
No, Riardon was going to kill them all. He didn't care.
Yeah. No, exactly.
I think so. Yeah, like I said,
and also we wouldn't have been able to. Maybe Finilia, but Shurik, he had to go.
Yeah. Shurik
he was too evil.
You would never have talked Shurik down.
To go.
Shurik would. You would never have been able to talk Shurik down because the whole thing was his doing. Like, he brought Navros into the world to begin with. There's no way.
All his fault.
I think a lot of it came down to party composition. Like, a lot of us weren't that set on like trying to redeem the Overlords anyway. So
no, not really.
Would it have ever been? I know this is probably a far-fetched hypothetical, but would it have ever been possible if another party recruited the Overlord to take on Shurik? If that information had ever came out?
Say that again.
Because so we now know that it was Shurik's idea to release Navros, and release all this pain, and everyone else was kind of just along for the ride, effectively.
Yeah.
If we had found that out sooner, another party probably would have had a better chance. But would we have, in theory, been able to recruit the other Overlords as a huge party to take on Shurik?
That would have been
Potentially, but I have no idea how you would have found that out because, like, Shurik would never let that on ever. Like, he had iron wall defense.
What if we wished and like asked the God of Knowledge, what is Shurik's plan?
Tension. I don't know. I think
again, this would take like a very like different party to what we have.
Yeah, I think
no one cared that much about the.
I would have probably had to think about it at the time, but even then, like, Shurik was so powerful, and especially with the UB shard as well.
He wasn't god level though, right? Because that's why he needed Navros.
No, he wasn't god level, but the UB shard puts him very close. Like, he would have probably put something around him to shield his mind against everything, potentially. That's probably how I would have gotten around it. But it would have been very difficult for you to, like, know that.
I would have said as well, you probably could have gotten away with the whole infinite realm area thing, or the infinite planes, universes, whatever, that one god doesn't have dominion over every single plane, and technically wouldn't know all plans.
No, exactly.
If Aramil had died, I know we said he had plot armor a few times, but if there was some unavoidable way of him to die,
If he did something drastically stupid,
like would there, like the final puzzle obviously required him to be there. Would you have changed anything about that?
Yeah, I probably would have taken out his parents. The thing is, what I tried to do as the regions went on was remove Aramil's plot armor as time went on, which I think I got to a point where I would have been happy with him dying. It would have just made for a worse story, but it would have been movable.
Literally, apart from that last pedestal bit, I kind of feel like past a certain point, I was pretty much just one of the guys.
Yeah, and that was my aim as the campaign went on, was to try and remove that plot armor from you.
What was the biggest instance of Aramil plot armor? Like, is there a particular instance where like he would have died and you were like, shit, I can't kill him?
Probably near the beginning.
I think
like before meeting Darius. Like if Aramil would die before meeting Darius, I don't think you guys would have been as convinced to side with him.
I actually, speaking of that, was there plot armor with the Enigma space, because you and I had a discussion about Aramil's frame of mind.
You were gonna say, yeah,
and how
Aramil almost left actually during that point.
Like that would have been a defining thing for him.
Yeah. No, if you had died in there, or if you had stayed in there, you would have not come back out. Basically.
Okay.
Like I said, by that point, like pretty much, by that point, I think I successfully removed enough to make it manageable, that if Aramil had died, the story could continue.
So that leads on to the last question quite well. So back to with the Enigma space, who would we all have been left behind, or like stuck in Enigma space if someone stayed in that dream world, or would only some?
Only some.
Because the way
the way I would have done it is, when you basically passed your illusionary part,
we woke up, didn't we?
Yeah. You automatically went into the next phase. So you all ended up turning up at different times. If you got to the point where you decided not to wait for anyone else, you would have had to have made a group conscious decision to be like, all right, we're not waiting anymore. Let's carry on. And eventually, yes, that person would have been left in the dust. You guys would have carried on and could have gone out.
Seriously, guys, though, if I didn't do that roll to figure out, I think it was law or something, just looked a little funny at one point. I can't remember what it was, but if I didn't get that, Aramil would definitely have stayed there.
I ended up having a really easy Enigma space because everything was blurry, so I was just
that was something that you, oddly enough, for your own disadvantage, helped you with because of your memory loss stuff.
It did make Talion more pissed at Finellia in general for trying to use his memories against him.
I think, I mean, you were pretty close. I mean, you had 8 levels of forgetfulness. Yeah. The last 2 were probably quite obvious. With the next one would be you forgot her name, and the next one would have been you forget her completely.
It did get to the point where I stopped leveling it because I was like, the memories are getting too much, and writing it down is not this. Although I did write down quite a lot. Like I managed to predict quite a lot.
As I said, it's like. It's not. It just wouldn't hold the emotional weight.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
It's like reading names in a book. You read names from a book, but you're not connecting with it. It's like you as Haiss reading the word Elena. It means nothing to you.
I just realised something. Navros has my sculpture and Ciri's painting.
Sorry, do you want like my inventory?
Artwork has been taken.
I will. A lot of random shit.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much exploded. So your inventory
so just like my magic stuff.
It's basically like your gear is mostly what's like your weapons mostly.
Everything else, my art exploded.
Most things pretty much. Navarite, by the way. So what does that do?
What, Navarite?
I was wearing Navarite. Does he just like fuse it back into him?
We'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like I said, anyone who didn't progress to the illusion would have stayed. I mean, I actually maybe thought that Cirilla might have stayed. Potentially
in the illusion.
Yeah,
I could totally picture Cirilla staying. I mean, it was a pretty good life for Cirilla.
She got pregnant from it.
She got pregnant from it. Like
got pregnant from it. Which obviously she didn't know until by the time everything ended. So,
God, does that mean if Cirilla had died, she would have?
Christ, how long was the Enigma space from the end of the campaign? Like, Have you been
For a
suffering from
couple
morning
weeks.
like sickness on the boat?
It
Probably.
wasn't that long.
But then you could. Hang on.
Less than a month.
Let's see. When was Fenelia killed? Fenelia was killed.
No, because I'm just thinking because we had to go through Demeric first, and then we got on the boat, and then
So
I'd
about
say less than a month.
It's been a couple of days.
12 days. 12 days.
It
Oh,
survived
okay.
all those
Not
fights.
So 12.
Old Junior survived all those fights.
So it's about 12 days since from Fenelia being killed to the end of the campaign.
damn.
The whole
Okay.
campaign took 45 days.
I really
Okay.
hope that in one of Aramil's social evenings he got to witness Ciri going like to the dunny to vomit.
She was getting some early training.
Just assuming it was drunkenness.
So yeah. But yeah.
What happened to the doctor on the ship that Talion kept stealing from?
Or the renter.
I forgot her name, but yeah.
Yes, her.
The Mulvey basically didn't wait for you guys after
Actually,
a while
yeah.
because obviously you were there for like a year.
Whole
So
thing,
they stayed around for a bit and they decided to try their luck at sailing back to North Belly.
Mhm.
You can probably guess that how successful that was based on your interactions.
The movie's dead.
So
Yeah, the cannon.
Talion doesn't care. There was no one there for him.
All right.
I mean, just bear in mind they also had a skeleton crew as it was. You guys were helping. So
Okay,
Yeah.
one more question that's just come to me. What would they have done if they found out that we'd killed like all their crew? Would they have like tried to stop us?
I think Captain Hill would have been extremely pissed, but he's it's part of a mission. Like he would have done it because he's ordered to, not because he wants to. His behavior towards you guys would have been very different.
I mean, just FYI, Talion was fully prepared to like just throw him overboard and carry on.
No, of course, but yeah, he wouldn't have said, "Well, fuck you guys, I'm leaving you here," because he was ordered to obviously do a job, and he would do it, but he would obviously be very not happy.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I do have backstories for each of the Mulvey people, but I'll just send those to you. I don't think it's not worth going through now. They're not that extensive.
Grizil was my only friend, and he's back anyway in the pirate campaign. So
It's totally fine. Brazil lives on.
indeed, which is nice. That's nice.
So yeah, do you want me to
On the
go?
list.
Was there any other questions, or should I go through the map?
I just want to see how big this thing is.
Yeah, I don't think I've got any other questions.
I'm tempted to
roll
either
20.
roll 20. So I'm tempted to either reveal the whole thing in one big go, or reveal them like room by room. I don't know because they're all very different.
Go on, give us the big curtain.
How many are there?
Overall, I have 91 things written down.
Wow,
Jesus.
what the hell?
Insane.
So
Maybe give us like your highlights, like the most interesting rooms.
yeah, I'll give you the
Places you
interesting
thought
rooms.
we'd get stuck or something like that.
Reveal it all just to see the span of it, and then just give us the interesting ones.
I mean, I've seen there's obviously like a lot of monsters, but like, I don't know if there are any other like puzzles or like there was obviously that weird jelly room at the start.
Whoa.
Wow, yeah, there's loads. Oh my god, I thought it was way short.
I love the fact that the map
The
you got is
Doom
called
Vault.
the Doom Vault.
That's awesome.
We moved some stuff to the. Hang on. I need to move stuff because I had stuff hidden, so I'm just going to make some things revealed as well. Mostly creatures I had hidden.
Fuck's in room 7.
What's in
That is a Baylor.
Wow, that's like CR 20 something. isn't
room
it?
42 has a lot of badass chicks in it.
So Baylor room. There was a spatial rift that was coursing with elemental energy that the Baylor was siphoning. If you had touched it, it would have dealt 1d8 damage of fire, cold, lightning, thunder, and radiant damage to yourselves. If you touched the rift, if you touched the rift.
Damn, man.
Oh shit, is Navros immune to radiant damage now?
Who knows?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I just remembered I was immune to radiant.
The one in like room 2 is like a bunch of like monstrosities basically doing Fight Club.
Excellent.
And in room 1 there's like a naked woman dead, like corpse. That was basically the prize.
Oh, that's
Oh,
grim,
no.
man.
They do with the prize.
So Yeah, 15 was basically the big grotesque thing with many arms. 78 was probably one of my favorites. So, well, sort of. So 78 had a doppelganger in it. And basically, when you had entered the room, you wouldn't have seen the creature. All you would have seen were these masks floating on the water. So I think you can possibly see the mask that it's holding. Yeah. They would have been like floating on the water. And if you had interrupted the water, the mask would have risen up to reveal this dude.
Like Talion likes to do.
Yeah. What he would have done, he would have put on each one of those masks and turned into one of you. And you would have to have basically defeated each one of you in turn before you could defeat him.
With our stats and stuff?
I put fully gaining their stats and abilities, but I probably wouldn't have done that because that would have been too much.
Yeah. I mean, would my guy just turn into an elemental then? If I was fighting?
Shab were your weakest to.
But yeah. What else was interesting in here? There were some rooms where there's like piles of bones that would form like bone dragons. And statues that came alive. Statues you had to break in order for the glyph to come on, but when you broke them, they released poisonous gas.
So when you got Warforged, man.
Yeah. What else? Room 42 would have you would have ended up in like kind of like a feudal Japan, and you would end up in like a tea house, and there would have been like 7 or whatever it is geishas drinking tea, and they would have like, asked you to come. And I wouldn't have revealed like the sprites at this point. They would have asked you to, come in, have some tea. When they did, one of them would have basically turned and tried to bite your face off, and they all would have attacked you.
Jeez.
How many of them were like pseudo-friendly, like the guy we sent home and stuff like that? None of them.
Well, he wasn't supposed to be friendly. He was supposed to.
As in, when I say like pseudo-friendly, like how many could we have like talked down and been like, no, it's okay. Like,
to be honest, I didn't even think you'd talk him down. That was just something that I wanted to do to speed things along.
I really liked him anyway.
Say, I think you adding that was really quite a nice touch.
Yeah, I like that.
And I really found it quite pleasant to be able to get over combat without doing combat.
Yeah, I didn't.
I would have been genuinely very reluctant to kill him because he seemed like a nice guy. So
he was so friendly.
Yeah,
I was very time conscious at this point. And,
so I like tigers. So yeah,
it was quite cool. And you wanted to talk to him, so I thought, you know what, fine, I'll. And I needed to practice Crisia anyway. So I kind of, multiple birds with one stone kind of thing. Let's think, what else? You had some more floating skulls. You had like this water dragon thing that I think I would have made like a storm giant or something in 39. Oddly enough, the pedestal puzzle, the final puzzle, wasn't originally in that room. It was in 87.
Moved it, right?
But I moved it because I thought it would make for a better story. And I wanted to fuck with Talion with Aramil, one more time before the end.
Thanks for that. Thanks so much.
What was the route of least resistance then?
Probably like down the left. So if you had gone like straight up to the top left corner and then went straight down, there's like considerably less fighting.
What was the deal with the jelly room that we went in first?
Oh, it was an intestine
puzzle that we just didn't solve.
You were inside an intestine.
How would we have got out? Just blast our way like
going out the other end of the intestine. So what I was going to get to is if you follow the intestine around, you had like the exit port, and if you went through that would have taken you to the other side.
I just assumed we were going to get like stuck in the jelly and like crushed or suffocated or something.
Yeah. So because of the concept of intestine, I didn't think would be surgery in these kind of worlds isn't really a thing.
No, not a magic.
No, so like I couldn't really say, you're in an intestine because you wouldn't know what that is. But you were basically teleported inside of giant, like not a giant, but something very large.
Yeah.
One of their intestines.
I mean, me and Talion probably skinned a few animals in our time and gutted them.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess animal-wise, I suppose. But then would you have studied them? Like, you would have just like taken out the guts and like put them to one side.
I mean, druid rituals, you never know.
Maybe, yeah, but no one rolled. So.
Intestine was used as condoms back in the day.
I don't think anyone here was using them. Yeah,
that is a great fact.
That
is a great fact.
Yeah, sheep's intestine.
Oh,
wow.
I don't know if I told you as well.
idea to do that.
I don't know if I told you as well that the mirror in the attic.
Oh yeah.
If you looked at it, it would show a picture of yourself of the opposite gender.
Did you have pictures for that?
No, I didn't have that.
That would
That would have been great, but no, I didn't have that. But that's what you would have seen, basically.
What would it,
I was
would
actually
anything happen
tempted.
if we like smashed the mirror or anything like that?
Nothing would have happened. What I was actually tempted to do, I didn't do again for time reasons, was that you were in like the house of these like bug, like anthropomorphic bug people. So it was like a family, like you were making noise, and like the dad, who's basically got like a bug head, like a fly head, like from The Fly or something, like pokes his head up to find out what's going on, and he has like a bat in his hand because he just thinks someone's like intruding, and then like, if you had killed him, like if you would look down the hatch, you would see his family.
Oh my god!
I was tempted to do all of that, but again, because of time, I decided not to put that in. So
what was the thing we fought before we went to the Shurik? You know, like the weird knight guy.
I was another lich.
Oh, it was a lich. They had a sword.
Oh.
Yeah, I modified.
Oh man, I thought it was a Death Knight.
I thought it was a Death Knight, but then when
it's basically like a Reaper, basically. But there is actually there is a Death Knight in here. I think it's number. Which number is it? It's 101. I put a Death Knight.
Yeah, because I was thinking that this isn't using Death Knight abilities, so I wasn't sure what it was. Yeah.
Again, it's kind of partly practice for Hellsjaw as well, because that's what things are going to be like. Like I'll be using different pictures to creatures, and you won't know what they are. Yeah. And I'll probably be amending stuff. So, and even if you did find out, I'll be changing stuff.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't really matter if we know.
But even if you look, there's a good chance I'm going to be changing resistances and immunities and ability damages and everything. I'll be changing everything basically.
It's just like the first 5 rounds of each combat. Oh, that would be a cool idea for a character, like documenting all the creatures' weaknesses and stuff. Yeah,
you could.
I've already picked my man, but if he dies,
you've got your elephant.
Yeah, I've got my elephant man. Yeah, I'll stick with him.
But yeah, there wasn't really much interest. I mean, everything had little quirks. Like 62 was like this beast who was like in a dojo breaking slabs, just working out.
Should he have been talked to?
He wouldn't have been able to understand. Well, I wouldn't be able. Well, the thing is, they wouldn't be able to understand you, but you had ways of getting around that. So, yeah, potentially you could talk your way out of that. The England thing was like on the spot.
Mate, what's really annoying as well is if we carried on through that England thing, we would have been back on the right track.
No,
you wouldn't.
Looks like a dead end.
No, but we could have gone up.
Yeah,
and then left, and then back down.
Yeah, but
I don't think we would have gone up.
Look at what's up.
Yeah, we would have been fine.
What's up?
No.
I can't
Better than the
Baylor
fucking
was up.
Lich.
The Baylor. I'd rather fight Lich.
Well, I think it was the Demi-Lich that really screwed you over.
Yeah,
the Demi-Lich really killed us.
But the thing is about the Demi-Lich is that it didn't really do much other than his one-shot kill. Like after we got up, it couldn't really do much to us.
Riardon one-shotted it. So
yeah, it didn't have much health.
I did damage. Yeah.
I mean, imagine if we all passed
Riardon
that
was MVP. Beyond the point.
All the damage.
Imagine if we passed that saving throw against the Demi-Lich, it would have just been like a walk in the park. So I guess that's what makes it dangerous.
Yeah.
But yeah, Riardon's invisibility cloak combo was like so OP.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I should have made it more expensive.
But that's like all I had.
Yeah.
Even though I'm multi-classed.
I mean, it was a one-shot trick, but it was a fucking good one.
Yeah.
Trick.
I came up big.
Yeah. I don't know if there's really anything else to reveal to you. I don't really have anything. I think like Mulvey character's backstory is very minor. It's basically, I mean, in there it talks about how Captain Hill, whose first name is Rog, by the way, not that it really makes a difference.
I would
basically
never
went
refer
around,
to him as anything other than Captain Hill.
basically went around and recruiting people. So actually, I'll go through this pretty quickly. Like Ruvia was part of a bandit group. She was actually leader of a bandit group called the Sirens. And basically he wanted that for her, her tough manner. He wanted her as the first mate. Right. Chiron was like a friend of his. Grazil was Grazil owns a company called From Here to There, which is basically like a procurement company. So he was like the main supplier for Rog. So he would get all the materials for them to build the Mulvey, and Rog, Captain Hill, like his resourcefulness and asked him to become his thing. And actually, Grazil joined him because he heard a rumor that dragons originated from Bran,
Okay.
What he misunderstood from the rumor is that dragons came from overseas. So he
Nice
thought
try,
going.
Brazil.
So yeah.
Mm.
So and obviously, Captain Hill's one of Captain Hill's brothers, because Ant Hill, was obviously he's a half brother. They have the same mother but different fathers. Shin used to work in the ale hole as like skivvy in the back kind of thing, carrying the ale. Verento is actually a medic in Exfall.
Did she ever have any secret fondness for Talion, or did she just not like him?
So the reason she hated you specifically was because she used to be a medic in Exfall Arena, and you can imagine the kind of people that would be in the require healing in the Exfall Arena. Mm-hmm. You basically are one of those people, and she hates those kind of people.
Did she like any of us?
Yeah, most of you. I mean, she just hates people that are arrogant, up themselves,
Talion.
overly cocky.
Talion.
Yeah. Obviously, Callie was ex Black Sleeves as well. Quartra actually used to work with Gruzeal. She used to be just a lugger basically, but obviously she had a thing for the captain and asked to become part of it. Ferg was actually just a regular. So Ferg was interesting. So Ferg was a regular in the ale hole. So he would just always talk to Captain Hill when they came in, and just became friends. Ferg was actually part of Gorath's army.
Okay.
He was actually a soldier in Gorath's army, but then left when he joined Captain Hill. That's why he knew a lot. He was quite
Ferg, you dog.
And then Mole was also one of Captain Hill's brothers, because Mole Hill.
Love it.
I'm surprised nobody picked up on that stuff. But anyway,
did we know?
Well, we never knew their last names, so I never.
But they're brothers. I told you that he had two brothers on the ship.
Wow!
That just never clicked.
And I thought, with Ant Hill and Mole Hill, it might click, but fair enough.
To be honest,
why else would Mole be on that ship? Why would he have someone so high on the ship?
Yeah, that's true.
Because he was just that good of a time.
To be honest, a bit like Cyril, Talion unfortunately doesn't care for a lot of these things.
Yeah, exactly.
I spend most of my time just eating health potions and wrecking beds and stuff.
So the only reason that Captain Hill brought Mole along was because he didn't want to leave him unsupervised. And Mole basically heard that needle spine was the most powerful drug in the world. Again, misunderstanding on what that meant.
It's medicine.
Yeah. So he went there to basically get needle spine.
Did he ever experiment?
No, he didn't get that. No.
Did that big worm that we banished ever come back because of the demon portals? Or is it still there?
Sorry, what?
The big worm that we.
Well, the worm popped back because you used banishment.
Oh, sorry,
the worm was only a minute.
Yeah, it was only a minute. So yeah, it came back. I mean,
I had the weaker version of Aramil's one.
That was that was probably one thing I should have. I probably was the most lenient with you guys was that worm, because he should have ate your asses. You should have ended in combat with that thing. You took so long, getting away from it.
We could have got into the mansion,
but you didn't. A lot of you, I think Riardon or Talion or whatever.
No, yeah, they were definitely.
I was getting the shells.
I was deliberately waiting though because I wanted to see what was coming out. So I was.
But I didn't want just Talion and Riardon to be left out there fighting the worm, because they would have died.
I was hidden though. I was using my invisible thing.
It would have found
I don't think you can really hide from it.
I would just sign off.
Final.
It would have kicked up so much mud. It would have found you eventually.
Yeah. Final question from me, out of curiosity. Sorry, is the dragon turtle still in the ethereal plane, and will it ever get out?
Who knows? But it is still in there.
Oh.
How long do dragon turtles live? Because I'd love that to be a Hell's Jaw Easter egg.
No, I have no idea, but who knows? There may be Easter eggs.
Nice.
Excellent, absolutely excellent.
Yeah. I also enjoyed playing Shah, by the way.
Fucking Shah.
I don't know, the voices. I enjoyed doing the voices for a lot of people.
Great
fun,
voices.
Man.
Yeah,
Voices are great.
They were great voices.
I like to think that a Navaros-infused Talion will maybe still one day go after Shah.
Oh my god, please tell me Navaros-infused Zertil.
Well, who knows? I'm not.
Please.
I've yet to plan, but I have ideas on how all of that is going to be incorporated.
It's kind of funny.
My danger is making him too powerful at this point.
The problem is that Talion had by far the most magical artifacts on him because I just collected stuff.
And you had the connections to both elemental beings, basically Zampactos, and a god.
Talion was like really the worst person to get transformed.
Yes,
So
he was.
I need to think of a way of incorporating it all without making him obscene, like make him defeatable. You know,
the way you could do it, I guess, is if there's just other artifacts like in the world for our new characters to get, which can match like the stuff Talion had.
Well, like I said, I've got ideas already. Yeah. I have ideas. Again, the danger is the ideas I currently have would give you plot armor. So I need to think about how, like, if you did the thing and someone died, how would the new person also do the thing?
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I have to think about.
Well, you know, to an extent, sometimes there's a punishment for dying. You know, you're not always going to have access to the same amount of like.
Yeah. So I'll be thinking. It's stuff I'm going to think about. Like the story stuff of Hell's Jaw is still in flux anyway at the moment. But yeah.
Oh, you could always have it as an option for other people to go back and do whatever this magical thing is.
Potentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any other questions. I mean, I'm going to probably send you guys my notes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably even like send you the document for this place, like this area, just so you can see what was in all the rooms.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I might send you the side effects table.
Please send me the side effects table.
You know what?
I really want the side effects table.
I'm interested in that as well.
I 100% want the side effects table because I want to use it in every single campaign I do.
let me just like do some random ones. Let's see. I think we did that one. So this was a bad one. You black out and lose control over your body. Other players can roll a d20 to decide the actions of your body.
That's really funny, actually. That one.
That's amazing.
What else? You believe you are under mind control magic, and your command is to touch everyone's face in an intense manner.
Excellent.
Definitely share this.
Are you putting this on Discord?
I will probably be putting this on.
What would be cool, Sonny, is if you put them all in like a Google Drive folder and links like the whole like directory kind of.
Yeah.
And we could grab everything.
Yeah, that'd be so.
Bad ones. Some of these bad ones are my favorites. Bad ones are awesome. The bad ones are way easier to write than like the good ones.
Can you tell us your favorite one?
Oh, that's so difficult.
Or pick one of your favorite ones.
I mean, this one.
Oh, you got to tell us this one.
No matter what anyone says, all you hear them say is, "I like cheese."
Excellent.
I think another one was like, you believe you're really good at poetry, but the only word you use is bacon.
Bacon.
Yeah.
That would have been so fun to watch.
Just stuff like that, really. There's 100 things in here. Like, it'd take me a while to like go through.
No, don't worry about that. I'll look through.
Quite funny.
But yeah,
so I'm adding like a lot of like drug side effects and stuff like that. So I want to. The more effects, the better, basically.
I'll be stealing it 100%.
I mean, some of them are boring. Like, you get +1 to wisdom. Like the good ones are really hard to do. Like some of the bad ones, like against all logic, you believe you are 8 months pregnant and you have no idea who the father is. Like as male characters as well. Like that's just brilliant.
It's just excellent.
You know, but yeah, no, this stuff is really fun to write. But yeah, I'm going to send you guys all that stuff anyway.
Yeah, sounds good.
But yeah,
Sweet.
I don't know if there's anything else.
That is actually, I was going to say thanks again for doing the campaign, especially because you were the first DM to take on the mantle as well, and it's been obviously 2 years of us playing, which is quite nice. So yeah, just for doing it. Had a very good time.
It's been very, very good.
Yeah. No worries.
Big investment, but it's a big payoff.
I mean, if you hadn't decided to do it, I don't think we would have ended up playing because I wouldn't have left it first time.
That's true. Yeah, someone had to take that leap on this.
Yeah, to be fair, this campaign got me into D&D. So
yeah, same. So
Thank you for it.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah,
No
it's
worries.
good.
So,
Great
if I can
journey.
do it
We've
again.
got it all in video as well, which is quite fun. Yeah, it'll be nice to go back and
Yeah.
see
oh
stuff.
man, it's gonna be
Be nice
crazy
to
having
edit.
having a different DM. You'll be a player,
Oh, no.
Sonny.
Yeah.
Sonny a player.
I know.
I
You're a player. Well,
Congrats
Matt
to
will be the
Sonny.
DM.
That's going to be strange.
Yeah.
I think
Was it the Ascendant Lands?
the Ascendant Land.
Ascendant Lands.
Yeah.
A new world.
I'm looking
Hopefully
forward to
starting next
interacting
week.
with Sunny as a player.
Yeah.
See like how he plays, kind of thing.
Well, you've
Yeah,
seen
so
it.
am
You've
I.
seen it in Curse of
It's
Strahd.
Strahd, yeah. That's
I've seen it
been
go Strad, but then, like
bizarre.
Zyra's complete, and also I'm a DM in Curse of Strahd, so it's like
Yeah.
not the same interaction.
Yeah, it'd be cool to interact with Sonny as a player.
That's what I mean. Like we're both players, so like
Yeah.
we're on like equal footing almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I
it's a good
suppose,
one.
technically you've only played with Dom and Dan as a player.
Oh, we
Yeah.
had the one shots with you,
Yeah,
Arthur.
good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one shots, but it's a distant memory.
All right. Oh, yeah, so
Lots
that's
of
all.
things
Should
will
we,
change.
should we end there? Should we end it there then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Fine.
Okay, so I'm going to end the
Yeah.
recording in 5, 4, 3, 2,